Well, hey, welcome to the show before the show. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, your local game guy, and today we'll be covering, of course, the year 2023. That should be easy. Will, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Doing well, he says. Good. I'm glad to hear
I'm
that,
running
man.
I'm running on not 1 to 2 hours of sleep today, so
Oh, that's
could be
better.
doing better.
That's better. I'm operating still in about that much, but I've got coffee and a headache, and we're good to go. Actually, I'm very excited for today's stream because well, specifically with, if you look at our thumbnail for this, the first set, we didn't really get a chance to cover on the channel. Phyrexia All Will Be One. Um, of course, own a few cards from the set, and I'm excited to talk about it, but this is sort of an opportunity to, up for all of us to look back on the year and reflect on all of the cards we found, not only viable for CDH, but noteworthy for their interactions potentially with future cards, and or just discuss some of our favorite cards, which a lot of these I would say maybe fall into the pet card territory or niche card territory for myself, just because I play off meta stuff and these things are more viable in those decks. So yeah, it's going to be fun discussing everything. Just to lay the ground rules for you guys before we actually get into today's retrospective review, we'll be covering roughly 3 cards from each set. That number might go up depending on the set itself, but it's going to be 3 cards from each set. That should be unique to either myself or Will. We might have some overlaps with a few sets, but we're looking at this from the lens of a commander player. So if you play other formats and there are cards that you feel are noteworthy or something we should discuss, let us know in the live stream comments. Obviously, we're here to talk about anything and everything you guys enjoyed from the year 2023 in the world of Magic the Gathering. As we prepare to go into 2024, and there's so much in store for that year, we've seen a little bit of the roadmap for that year, and of course, we've seen a little bit of a set that's coming up. So, if you haven't noticed, Ravnica Remastered is actually on the schedule for next year. It comes out January 12th, and we'll be seeing so much more from that set here on the channel specifically. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about all of that. Be sure to use our link in the description to learn more about the upcoming set and order yours today. Thank you, Wizards, for sponsoring that portion of our video. Wizards of the Coast made us a brand ambassador earlier this year. Everything they've sent us, everything they've helped us do on the channel, thank you guys so much. This is sadly our last sponsored video for the year, but we're looking forward to doing much more with them in the future. But on to today's special retrospective review for the year 2023. So we're going to be covering, again, everything from Phyrexia All Will Be One to Magic's most recent set, The Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And we encourage you, if you're following or just watching the VOD, to participate. Let us know your favorite cards from the year as we discuss each set. We'll of course be covering this from the lens of Commander players, as I've stated, so if there are standouts in other formats, please let us know. However, we're narrowing this down to 3 cards. Again, 3 cards from each set. So if we miss your favorite, let us know. That's why we do these live. And anyway, Will, we're going to be doing this on Scryfall. I figured we could just look up the cards, talk about the cards as they come up. And, okay, so for Phyrexia All Will Be One. Again, a set that we didn't participate, I don't believe, in a full-fledged review of, but there are a lot of staple-ish cards from the set that people play and or are more or less niche playable in a lot of situations. The first card I do want to discuss, though, is one that comes up a lot as like just a deck you should be playing or trying, and that's Atraxa Grand Unifier. So we've actually faced one of these decks on an FNM we had with Play to Win. So they came out and they had, I forget who was on it, but Atraxa Grand Unifier. And, it's awkward in its cost, but when it resolves, it generally wins the game. And I think that's enough for most people. But I did want to mention at least one legendary creature. I don't know if I mentioned another thing that can be a commander, at least in my list of cards. And this is one that I see a lot of and I hear a lot of. So it's 7 mana, It's everything but red. 7/7 legendary creature Phyrexian Angel, flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink. When Atraxa Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card from that type from among the revealed cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you're not cheating in value, but you're certainly getting a lot of card advantage. And in most cases, you're trying to storm off in some obscene way, right? And the best thing to manipulate that I've seen in the setup is a Displacer Kitten. Very clearly, those two things really just go hand in hand together. It popped off on camera for us. I forget if the Atraxa won, but it certainly did the thing. And you know, the fact of the matter is this can still whiff, but as a legendary that gets to go in 4 colors, you can't deny there's a lot of value in Atraxa. Will, I don't know your feelings on the card, but
So I think Atraxa is good, and I've always said that Atraxa is good, but I've also always been the guy who's been clubbing people over the head for saying Atraxa is like one of the best decks right now. I
yeah.
think Atraxa is overhyped, but is not bad by any means. Atraxa is a very good deck and can be very consistent. It's a little bit on the slower end, which is why I don't really like Atraxa too much. And if you wanted to play these colors, I think TNT is probably just better. If you wanted to do like some kind of flicker storm type of deck, there's a couple commanders that do it a little bit better for a little bit cheaper. So I think that Atraxa is really, really, really good because Atraxa is still kind of a ETB, get enough value to control out and end the game, and plays a lot like the One Ring decks without needing the One Ring.
Yeah,
Um,
I get
so
that.
yeah, Atraxa is good. Atraxa is not like tier one, tier zero, but Atraxa is definitely a good, consistent commander that I think will see play for a long time into the future.
Right. I feel like it's also just a fan favorite character. One other reason I brought it up, I've seen so many cosplayers tackle Atraxa. So
Yeah, I
here
think
it is for you.
Atraxa is also a most hated card from the OG Atraxa being an Infect slash Super Friends commander, which people hate both of those decks. So
Yeah, it's fun that they brought it back in another like to be the bane of players
yeah, well, at
once
least people
again.
like this one because it's like, ah, you just draw instead of making people miserable with a non-interactable trigger.
You certainly feel like you deserve it too when you get there because again, it's a lot of work. It's not very easy to get to that Atraxa cast, despite what your friend tells you. But my next card from All Will Be One that I want to discuss is one that I personally enjoy. It's honestly something Will put on my radar because I totally missed this and it made total sense for the deck I play it in, Oswald Fiddlebender. Skrelv Defector Might. I think it could belong in decks outside of Oswald. And here's why. It's 1 white, 1/1 body, legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Might. Toxic 1. Poison, if you don't know, you get 10 of those counters, you're dead. Skrelv Defector Might can't block. That's okay. It's okay because Phyrexian mana, white Phyrexian mana, tap, choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that color until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So if there's any relevant combat tactics you're employing, this is good for that. If it's just general protection, this is good for that. In a deck like Oswald, where you can untap things infinitely, this is infinite hexproof from infinite colors with infinite toxic. It's a good card. It's a good card. And mind you, you do need to pay the white in that instance, but you're also making infinite mana in a lot of those situations where you're post infinite. So Skrelv does like on the surface, it just seems like another Mother of Runes, Giver of Runes, but really it's one of those that's susceptible to more removal, yes, but has a finisher attached to it, right? Yes, multiple instances of toxic stack, in case you're wondering. So, yeah, Will, thoughts on Skrelv Defector Might? He has another cool card too from the set. It's an enchantment that makes tokens, right? So we're
Yeah,
always looking for more of those too, but the legendary creature itself.
yeah. I also just love the fact that Skrull gives evasion, like which protection gives evasion. So this is functionally give a creature protection, but it doesn't prevent against damage-based board wipes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's literally just give protection and toxic one for the most part. I also want to point out Skrull has two arts, and they are both fantastic because you have the OG Might art, where it's just little bug doggo nibbling on your finger like everybody's doggo whenever they're excited and happy. And then you have the Evangelion alternate art, which is it's just Skrelv looking like something straight out of Evangelion.
Yeah, and not doing a cute nibbly thing.
Yeah, not doing a cute nibbly thing. He's doing like a freaking what's his name? Pinhead from that one movie. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. It looks like one of those nightmare guys with his teeth like
Yeah, outside of his on his exoskeleton.
yeah.
It's a little repulsive, but somehow still cute. I think it's one of my favorite cards to see. It's weird because like when you break that zero and you go for a one drop, I'm not gonna lie, Esper Sentinel steals the show in a lot of cases. But there are moments where you just need Skrelv to close out the game or maintain a board that has stacks pieces, relevant stacks pieces, usually Drannith Magistrate. And Skrelv really gets you there. I love the card, man. The other card I want to bring up is somewhat niche playable, but for those stacks players out there, it is a boon, and that is the Soulless Jailer. So for me, I have a copy of this card. I think it's a great card. It's one of those cards that I feel you should own a copy of if you don't have one. I don't have a link for you. I'm not making anything in saying this. I just think it's a really good value piece. One, because it's a 0/4 for 2. So you'll always be able to block the Timnas. You'll always have something to put in front of someone's potential draw engine. But moreover, this Phyrexian Golem makes it so that permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Relevant why? I don't know. Underworld Breach. Cards been amazing since it came out, and we still need to mainline things to shut it down. So if you're lacking this, but also players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exile. So, or exile is more relevant now because there are a lot of impulse draw effects, right? And it's predominantly red, but all that is to say is when you put the top of your deck into exile and you can cast it, all of those draw effects, right? So asterisks, it's not necessarily draw, but this will affect those players as well as again the Underworld Breach player and or any if I'm not mistaken, flashback is a cast, so it will stop your flashback effects as well. And Past in Flames and Yawgmoth's Wills, if you see those, it hits a lot of things, and I feel like it will largely be ignored over some of the other pieces on the board, like if you also have a Torpor Orb. But if people forget, poo poo on them. That's what I say, Will. But yeah, Soulless Jailer. Any thoughts and feelings on this one? I don't know if you own a copy or not. I know I own this
I
copy.
own a copy because I have thought about it for a ton of different decks, and I think I run it in Arkham,
Mm.
because it's an
Mm.
artifact creature and it's just generically good.
There's no
Um,
reason. There's no reason. Yeah, yeah, makes
exactly.
sense.
And I also really like Soulless Jailer because if you look at the other Grafdigger Cage style effects, it
Yeah.
prevents library, which is both good and bad. But if you're playing green and you want a green Sun Zenith, Grafdigger's Cage stops you, but Soulless Jailer doesn't, which I really, really like because there's a ton of green decks that want to run Grafdigger's Cage, but kind of don't want to because it ruins a third of their tutors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in addition, this is just a hard lock with Uba Mask, and this was a
Yeah.
an Oswald combo for a while. Not your Oswald, but I know some Oswalds who ran Uba
I
Mask.
used to run Uba Mask. If I hit Drannith Magistrate, right? Uba Mask is a oldie, a goldie, and one of the best arts in the game, still in my opinion. But it's a Champions of Kamigawa card. But it makes it so that each player plays cards they remove from the game with Uba Mask this turn if they happen to remove a card, and this is considered every time you would draw. So it's a replacement effect for your draws, and to include your first per turn. So it'll also shut down, I guess, the draw effect of Orcish Bowmaster. You know, they won't get that trigger, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. I don't know. Not that you need Ubamask for that, but if you did care about locking out people, yes, Ubamask in this is one way to do it. I guess you could roll with that in Arkham if you wanted to. I don't know if you are, but
The Uba Mask with Soulless Jailer. No, because I can't search Soulless Jailer easily.
mm, duly noted. So, Will, what are your favorite cards from Phyrexia Will be one Three. You can give me three. And again, I offer this to the audience as well. There's a poll ongoing. I feel like it's kind of slanted in one direction. Participate in that should you like. But moreover, let us know your favorite cards from Phyrexia. All will be one. Obviously, we'll be covering anything you guys want to touch on, but also our three favorites. And again, we play CDH. We'll play casually and competitively. So our opinions are wholly personal. I am trying to touch on at least one thing that the CDH community largely agrees on, but my personal favorites. This is more of that kind of retrospective review. But hell, I get a lot of use out of all these cards, so except for the Atraxa. That was for you guys. That was for you in the
Yeah.
audience. But Will, what are your three favorites from Phyrexia? All will be
So
one.
for the audience, Patrick and I didn't really sync up everything for our list,
No.
so I did a three that I would initially pick, and then a bunch of backups just in case we have the same card. So
Mm.
my three initial picks were Skrelv, Atraxa, and Soulless Jailer. So
Stop.
Patrick nailed all three that I would have done, so I'm happy that we agreed on all three of those. But for my
Well, I guess we're
backups,
SO. We gotta call it quits, guys. The video's done.
the stream's
Thanks for
over.
watching.
We
But no,
already hit
actually,
the triple sevens on the slot machine.
hit the triple like button. Share it with your grandma. We'll see you on the next one. No, well, no. See, this is good though. This is good because Will comes prepared.
Yeah. So my first one is Armored Scrap Gorger, and this is a really nice tech piece that I really like. So it's a one and a green for an O3 that has +3/+0 if it has three oil counters on it. It can tap for one of any color, and when it becomes tapped, you may exile a card from a graveyard. If you do, put an oil counter on it. So this is just a two mana dork that makes any color, becomes a 3/3 eventually, and hates on graveyards at instant speed.
It's kind of like a Scooz. Obviously, Scooz is activated via mana, so it you can do it immediately. But here's what all I want to say. I want a shirt that says "Eat, Sort, Eat, Sort" for the flavored text because it's
Eat,
so good.
sort, eat, sort. I
But
didn't even realize
notice,
the flavor text.
but notice that he stops sorting after two because he's eaten three times. And I think once he hits the oil, it's like the flavor text plays so well into this card, let alone the fact that it's just a good utility. Again, this is more or less something to counter those Underworld Breach strategies once again. Or, Stunt and Mnemonic Betrayal, or anything that's going to fool with a graveyard, right? And any reanimate strategy is shut down. This is dope. And one mana of any color, I think a 2-for-1 is less appealing. But then when you look at partners with legends like what we got from Doctor Who, 2-for-1 is palatable. I mean, at least it's doing a lot more than just adding mana, I suppose I should say. And like Will was saying, it's instant speed, so again, you can hold it up as a blocker. It's a 0/3, but it's a 3. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's also a really good Tymna blocker, and then eventually it's a Tymna killer. So
There
gotta
you
love
go.
it.
Hate
My
it,
next
hate it.
one is a Unctus Grand Metatect, which also Metatect is the most metal title that you can give someone apparently.
What is a metatech? Tell us, Will. Tell us, Will.
Well, not Metatech, Metatect, which is the guy who builds the meta, apparently. If
Oh,
you look at
really?
like Architect,
Oh, okay. Sure. I'll believe it.
so Unctus is on here because Unctus was kind of a flavor of the month CDH commander that a lot of people really liked. And basically, if you have Unctus and any blue creature that says tap to untap a thing, and either another one or one that untaps itself, you loot through your whole deck and you just kind of win the game. Um, Unctus is really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not bad. It's interesting because mono blue commanders, they don't generally get a lot of love because people like to splash a lot of blue into their list that incorporate blue, but blue strategies are often like they just devolve down to having Lab Man after you've emptied your deck, or having Thassa's Oracle after you've emptied your deck. And we forget how many other good sub strategies exist in blue, like freed from the real kind of strategies. There's a lot of stuff you can do in mono blue that doesn't directly pertain to or rely on Thassa's Oracle, though there are mono blue combos too. Win with Thassa's Oracle. It's nice to see though that there's a commander that sort of favors those strategies, and it's also just value. It's card quality because it's a loot effect, but even still, I think that Unctus has legs. I've not faced one, but I feel like I've not faced very many mono blue commanders, so there could and there should be a resurgence. Obviously, your Arkham, and I would say Urza is the most practical these days if you want to go either way. But there's definitely a lot you can do with Unctus. We were talking about
Yeah,
this just the other day, as a matter of fact.
because Unctus is really weird because he's a creature-based commander in mono blue, but also he keeps your hand perfect because you're tapping all of your creatures and maybe like looting 5 cards a turn. So
He's
it's
the meta
draw
type.
5, discard 5 every turn. Really good.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't seem bad at all. Any good flashback effects? Have to take a look at that. Let us know
Here's
your
like
Unctus tech,
Yeah,
folks.
there's some weird flashback mill that you can probably do, but the things that I've seen is like Thorkel Labman, but also doing Icecrown Scepter Dramatic Reversal and Midnight Clock, and then you can loop Midnight Clock over and over and over again to just replay your deck infinite times.
That works. Infinite works. Wait,
Infinite
but this
value's
is
nice.
two. This is two cards,
This is
Will.
two. And my last one, and this one is a fan favorite that everyone keeps cramming into every single deck and says that it's the best thing ever, and I don't think I think I run it in one deck, and it's Mycosynth Gardens.
Oh,
So Mycosynth Gardens is a land. I think it's a sphere land, but not an artifact land, weirdly enough. And it taps for a generic, but you can pay X and tap it to copy target artifact. So it becomes a copy of an artifact that you want. People really like this because you can just tap it and make a second Mana Crypt or a second Mox Diamond or a second Mox Amber. In addition to the fact that you can just pay one, tap it, and make another Soul Ring. I also forgot that it filters colors. But
better than you thought then.
yeah, it's a little bit better than I thought. Uh, but yeah, so Mycosynth Gardens is just a way to get extra copies of your fast mana early to ramp a tiny bit harder, or to just become a Wooburg land by copying another fast mana piece like Mox Diamond.
Hmm. Would you want a copy of Mox Diamond? Becomes a copy of target non-token artifacts you control.
Yep, doesn't
Um,
enter. Doesn't enter. So you're good.
right. Yeah, it's not like you need to put a counter on this thing. Yeah, what the heck? Give yourself a Mox Diamond, why don't you? It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's relying on the value of other things, but it at least taps for generic. I can see why people like this. I mean, it's running a couple bucks right now, so that has to say something about its apparent value. I feel like I bought a copy of Mycosynth Garden. I have one floating around this space somewhere. I don't know what deck I put it in though. It's not in Shurikai.
It
It's
might be an
interesting.
Oswald, I don't know.
Maybe it's an Oswald. Maybe it's an Oswald. I've never played it. I gotta check the deck. There's 99 cards. You know, cards get lost sometimes. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in there. Generally speaking, I don't recommend you put generic tapping lands in decks that are multiple colors, because you never want to be faced with a situation where you're just lacking the pip. But this does help you in a lot of ways get additional ramp out of your Soul Ring or your Mana Crypts, or just additional color out of that Mox Diamond. So totally agree. It is interesting though that it becomes a copy of it. So I guess that's the concept of it not being an artifact, is it becomes an artifact.
I
So
mean, yeah, but if it can become an artifact, that means that it's made of metal and other crap, so it should be an artifact.
well, is that what sphere implies? I don't know.
So sphere implies that it's one of the layers of New Phyrexia,
Hmm.
and those are like metal landscapes. So yeah, but no.
Okay. So guys, that's it for Phyrexia All Will Be One. Those are our top contenders for cards that you should have in your commander arsenal. Again, we're only speaking from a commander standpoint, so if you do play other formats, let us know your favorite cards from Phyrexia will be one, or if there's anything we missed utility wise that you think is worth playing, or even just a pet card of yours, let us know in the comments. Though the next thing on our list has a much shallower pool. We did want to discuss it because it was kind of a big deal for the year, and one of the videos that this channel kind of came back with once we started producing rather content here on the channel, and that's the D&D secret lair drop. So again, it's a smaller pool, so we're just going to look through and discuss the cards from it, not necessarily point at any favorites, because I wouldn't say that every deck needs a Holga, but maybe yours does. Maybe yours does want a Holga. So I'm over on Magic the Gathering's Secret Lair site. This place has a great collection of cards. If at any point we're moving too quickly, we can jump back to another set. Obviously, don't want to jump back too far. But Justin R says, Garden sees play in Modern for Amulet. Duly noted.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that. So, are there any D&D cards you specifically want to talk about? There are some interesting ones like Zenk. I think Simon was maybe our favorite when we covered this. And then obviously there's stuff you can do with Edgin.
Yeah, I think Simon was like an interesting one. I like out of all of them, I think like the Is It one and the mono black one were probably my two favorite. That or the mono white one, but there was nothing of significant note out of all these, and it looks like on the Magic the Gathering site they don't have the dragon, but the dragon was definitely in there.
Yeah, we'll pull the dragon up. So it's interesting because I think the dragon was supposed to come in the same bundle, right?
Yep, I think it was the secret card. Like they always love slipping in
Mm-hmm.
something else. Like The Walking Dead, they had the bat.
Yeah. Bat was good.
But yeah,
don't don't hide that from us. That card, Lucille, still my favorite piece of equipment. Genuinely, we're not talking about the Walking Dead Secret Lair, but if we were, I would highly encourage you just buy the bat. It's so good. It is such a good card. You don't have to think it. You don't have to think too hard on that card, and it just produces value. But yeah, you want it. Well, okay, we can look at the mono black leader. It's a curious one for sure. So it's 3 generic and a black, 2/4 menace, ward, sacrifice a creature. So your opponents will have to sacrifice a creature if they want to target this. Forge Neverwinter Charlatan gets +2/+0 for each treasure you control. And guess what? Whenever one or more players sacrifices one or more creatures, you create a tap treasure token. This ability only triggers once each turn. So instant speed, hey, let's sacrifice thing effects work really well here, obviously because of its limitation. But the fact that it encourages sacrificing with its ward cost means that you're going to see a lot of sacrificing handled. So, they'll go to cast the thing, they'll have to pay for the ward, you get the trigger on the stack, and then you have options afterwards. It's an interesting one for sure. But +2 is quite a bit. I mean, how many sacrifices do you need to see before you start? What's the clock look like in your opinion, Will, for Forge?
well, for Forge, if you have anything that can make a couple treasures here or there, he can get pretty big pretty quickly. So I think he can like 2 to 3 tap people, and then later in the game he can potentially start one tapping people. It's also really funny to note that Forge, I think, does some really dumb shenanigans with a Ruthless Technomancer
Mm.
because you can sacrifice Forge to get like 10, 20 treasures, then sacrifice 5 of them to get Forge back, and now he's like a 40 power creature one-shotting everybody.
It's not
It's
bad.
so
Well, yeah,
Forge can
you
do
mean
some,
really one-shotting people. Yeah.
yeah, he's double-shotting people, not even one-shotting people anymore. He's killing them and reviving them from the dead with how much damage he's doing. But I remember we discussed this when we were initially going over these, and the most disgusting and annoying thing you can do with Forge is
Mm.
when someone tries to remove Forge, in response to the ward trigger, you kill their only creature, and then they have to have the ability counter their removal spell. So Forge is just gonna stick around in the most annoying way possible.
Right. And in a lot of instances, it could be just your commander available, right? Or it could be your commander and opposition agent. So their choices suck. Your choices will not be fun. Unless one of the things you put down was Orcish Bowmaster and you're like, okay, well, we'll sacrifice this 2020 token for the greater good, I suppose. But it's rare that you really want to commit to that. But on that note, Orcish Bowmasters is great here because you're always going to have a token to sacrifice to any mass sacrifice effects too. So there's a lot of playability here. I remember Edgin being good, or at least having playability in Is It. The dragon is something that I feel like we've had people comment on the channel as something we should do or something we should play.
So
So I'll look
yes,
up the dragon.
uh, Thumberchod, I think is the name. Yeah, Themberchod, I think is how you pronounce it.
Well, you're gonna have to. Well, I'm
Yeah,
more interested in how it's spelled.
Thember. If Thember, we'll probably have it pop up on Scryfall. But so
Thembachod.
Themberchod, yeah, it's a 7 mana 5/5 trampler that enters the battlefield and deals X damage to each creature without flying, and each player, where X is the number of mountains you control. You may exert Thumberchod to give him flying until the end of the turn, which I love because he's a fat dragon, so he has to overexert himself to fly.
That's
um,
such good flavor. If you haven't seen the
I know.
movie, it's very good flavor. Deals X damage each of the creature without flying. Yeah. Okay, so he can hurt himself. Each other creature without flying.
Well, it's
Yeah,
each other creature, so he doesn't hurt
yeah,
himself. He's fine.
yeah. So each player where X is okay, okay. Good for you, Themberchod. Did they ever call him Themberchod in the? Is it just known?
I
I.
don't know. I've never seen the movie.
It's good. It's really good. It's totally worth watching. It's a fun like fantasy romp, and the effects are great. A lot of practical effects. Totally worth watching. But yeah, Themberchot's sweet. I think that unless you guys want to talk about any specific D&D cards, we can maybe move from here. But I did want to look at Edgin really quick. He's
Yep.
generic and is it 3/3 human bard, legendary creature, obviously. Each non-land card in your hand without foretell has foretell. Up until now, we haven't. Correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't really had a legendary that has favored foretell in this way. Its foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. Right, so that's pretty potent. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, goad target creature an opponent controls. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a board state where that creature will die if it attacks. So giving it that opportunity is fantastic. But cheesing out spells by foretelling them, obviously the typical foretell is it's you pay well during your turn you may pay 2 to exile it from your hand face down, and then there's a cost associated with like flipping it. You can't use it on the same turn you foretell it, but the very next turn you can use it. What we did discuss this, but what were the best cards to foretell?
So the most disgusting thing that you could do is possibility storm stuff because possibility storm affects casting spells from your hand, and if you're foretelling it, you're casting them from exile. So you can make it so that you're the only one playing a consistent game plan. And if you have a card you don't like, you can just cast it into possibility storm. And funnily enough, possibility storm will trigger goad in one go because you cast a spell, put it to the bottom, get another spell, cast it, trigger goad.
That is true. And it's whenever you cast a spell each turn, mind you. So you are actually able to, if you do the possibility storm shenanigan, you are actually able to use that with a lot of frequency. And again, there's a lot of creatures you just don't want to swing with. So Edgin will hopefully help you knock them out. Really interesting utility attached to a commander or potential commander. Obviously, it's a little counter to what, the Is It player typically wants to do, which is some form of storm list. But I guess you're kind of doing that in a interesting foretell way. But yeah, Edgin, Larcenist, Ludinist. If you didn't pick up these cards, that's understandable. It came via a secret layer drop, so you may have missed this opportunity. But I think buying these as singles isn't difficult these days if you want to play any of these cards. But that's it for the D&D set. Next up on our list is actually, I'm going to bunch them together. It was new to the year 2023, if I'm not mistaken, but there was a set called March of the Machine, and it was a storied set, and there was an expansion to, of course, expand upon that story, but also build out the card base a little bit more. So it's a two-parter. It's March of the Machine and March of the Machine, The Aftermath. And my 3 favorite cards from those 2 sets, and Will, if you wanted to take it, if you wanted to just discuss Aftermath separately and March of the Machine separately, feel free to. And of course, I'll encourage you guys to send your favorite cards in the chat. But it's a card that I want to see played more, and I think is very good. I'm pretty sure I opened a copy. I just don't have a deck for it right now. But I will be discussing a legendary later that I could definitely jam this in. Right? Did I write it down? Yes, I did. Okay. Cosmic Rebirth. I think this card is amazing, especially at uncommon. For generic and Selesnya, instant speed spell, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. So it can only be a permanent. If it has a mana value of 3 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. So in a sense, it's more or less just like playing Eternal Witness, except Eternal Witness can grab anything. The benefit here is that you can cheese out permanents with this card. So because it is locked to permanents, though, again, it's never going to have the kind of range of an Ewit, but the fact that you can utilize this to help you play out effects is amazing. There are other implications here. Say you used, in the same list. Say you used, let's see, Savine's Reclamation. You can just, oh no, that's not what I was thinking about. You gain 3 life at the end of this. It's good for getting a permanent out of your graveyard. I value these effects highly. There's another card I use in Oswald specifically called Recommission. That's more or less the same effect, but I kind of keep my eyes open for these effects because they do help you when things get knocked out of play, whether it's a relevant stacks piece or a combo piece that you put there yourself. But yeah, Cosmic Rebirth, Will.
I mean, I talked up this card. I think I brought it up to you, and I'm happy that you brought it up because I don't even think I put it on my backup list, let alone my main list. But it is a really good fact, or it's really good that this card is an instant because you can bring back that stacks piece when someone's trying to combo off. If someone wants to tutor, reanimate that opposition agent. If someone wants to storm off, reanimate that rule of law. Like, it's so good because you just keep up the option to have the interaction to deal with other people's stuff. Or just get value. Because this can hit a land and it can ramp you. This can hit a mana rock and then just do mana rock things. It's just a very good card.
Yeah, and I had no idea that there was a DZO alternate art version.
I didn't know either. That's cool.
That looks freaking awesome. Yeah, so Cosmic Rebirth, definitely one I recommend just having in your arsenal. I think it's a good card. I think it's going to be, again, niche playable because it is, you don't usually use gold or like hybrid cost cards. There are only so many I can think of that are mainlined. Really the major one being Fire Covenant, in my opinion. And then everything else is kind of icing. A Mnemonic Betrayal is played in a lot of lists as well for grindier matches, just stealing opponents' value. The next card I want to talk about, though, is... I had to talk about it. Invasion of Ikoria. So, we're not too concerned about the back end of this card, but the card itself is a new type of card that we got to see this year. There are apparently going to be more types of battles coming out. Siege is just the first of many. But this alone is really good and a case for us to want to see more battles because for X and double green, when Invasion of Ikoria enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature with a mana value of X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. There's another card called Finale of Devastation that came out a little while ago. I don't think it has that hang up of being a non-human creature. Pretty sure it doesn't. But it's just another variant of that. And we like tutors. So, I mean, what else can I say? It's fantastic. Obviously, it does have the benefit of having a backside. If you were to take this out, right, you put this on your opponent's side of the board. It's theirs to defend, and then if you defeat it, you do this. You flip it.
You get an 8/8 that makes it so all of your stuff is functionally unblockable.
I mean, you put in the work, you deserved it. And the thing is, if a game gets grindier and you can kill the break the battle, win the battle, why not have an 8/8? Why not reward yourself with an 8/8 with reach? Because sometimes games do just get prolonged. I've actually never seen anyone break the Invasion of Ikoria ever, but I do think that can happen in longer games, especially ones that get stacked out. I mean, we've had some long games on FNM where I wish I had an 8/8. I really wish I had an 8/8. But, Will, Invasion of Ikoria, I'm assuming this was on your main list.
This was on my side list as well.
Side list, okay.
Yeah, my side list.
Don't
So
like tutors.
Invasion.
Will doesn't like tutors, guys. You heard
Yeah,
it here
well, no,
first.
it's there because I'm like, Patrick is probably gonna mention this one. If not, Patrick might not mention it, and then I can mention it. But so it was a balance that I was like, I can guff around with it. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's funny to note that you can use Displace Your Kitten and get out all of your Ornithopters and everything out of your deck by flickering this.
Mm.
It's not
All
relevant,
those
but it's funny. Um,
non-human ornithopters. Yeah, yeah. But you will reset the damage.
yeah, you will. So
Don't do that, Will.
but don't worry, you're gonna have Ornithopter to be able to help punch it down a little bit faster.
Sure, the 0/1 flyer, or you get a
Zero
Meta
two,
Knight.
0/2, Patrick. Respect
Sorry,
the
you're
card.
right. You're right. I should know this. I played Teshar. I should know this. But Invasion of Ikoria, obviously, it's a tutor. There's really not much else to say about tutors. We generally want them in 99 card singleton formats. Let me know if this was playable in other formats, though. I have to assume, you know, tutors in a smaller card pool, I think you just want an influx of the cards you want to see. So tutors are less important, I feel, in other formats. But I don't know, it's $10 right now. So
Yeah,
apparently
I mean,
people still like it. Huh?
it's also notable that it's recursion, not just a tutor, because it searches your library or graveyard. And
I
it's
should
also
say, yeah.
notable that it's a permanent, so all those random green return a permanent from
Mhm.
your graveyard to your hand effects are actually useful. So there's a little
Yeah.
bit of extra functionality there.
Take that, Black. I don't need your animate dead. I don't need your
Yeah.
reanimate. I've got Invasion of Ikoria. That is really funny to consider. I think that I certainly overlook that element of cards like this, but yeah, that's totally true. It is it's a tutor equally as it is a reanimate, so there's a lot of value there. Obviously, having to pay X for that can hurt, but more oftentimes than not, the thing you're going to reanimate's a dock side.
Or collector,
Anyways,
one or the other. Someone's
yeah,
suffering.
someone's suffering. The next and last card I want to bring up is another legendary. Because this is a commander, is kind of commander forward. Magic experience channel. I do want to mention a handful of legends. So I mentioned Atraxa earlier, and I want to bring up Obnixilis Captive Kingpin. There were a lot of really cool pairing legendaries, and this is the set that brought us, if I'm not mistaken, Yargle and Multani, which
Yeah.
is one of the better decks in CDH right now. The best deck you've never heard of. But we did discuss it here on the channel. I highly recommend you watch our Yargle Multani video, but you should also watch the build video we did on Obnixilis Captive Kingpin. We built it from scratch in an hour, and it performed amazingly. So I can only imagine what some fine tuning will do, but it's 4 mana total, 4/3 body, flying, trample, demon. Whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, so pingers, put a 1/1 counter on Obnixilis Captive Kingpin. Oh, Agatha Soul Cauldron combos? You don't care about that. Exile the top card of your library. Until your next end step, you may play that card. Your next end step. So let's just take inventory here. It's a 4 for a 4/3 flying trample. Already amazing value. Just if you're just looking at the card in a vacuum, those are good stats. And then the triggered ability. Well, it's not pinging things itself, but what I love most about Commander is when you see a legendary that is just chock full of so much value and pushes you to think and build in a specific way to benefit from that card. I love seeing it because it involves like niche playable cards like mana barbs, things that you would not see in other decks that are so just dominating in this list, right? So you're getting card advantage, you're getting power on board, and you're ultimately just pinging people to death. In some instances, that might be enough. It's such a cool commander. Honestly, probably my favorite from the year. I have to say. I think that Ob Nixilis Captive Kingdom. It's my favorite legendary. Best legendary of the year. There you go. I'll say it. I don't know how to do the balloons. Is it this?
I think, yeah, I believe it's double thumbs up.
Oh my god. Let's just do it. Just do it. He doesn't want to do it. It's so
Yeah,
temperamental. At any rate, yeah, Will, Ob Nixilis Captive Kingdom. This is my third and final card from March of the Machine and the Aftermath that I wanted to discuss, but your thoughts
yeah.
on
I
the
mean,
boy?
he's really good because you don't even really need to build around the one damage too frequently. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can do. You'll probably run all will be one as
Nixilis.
a combo with Ob Nixilis, but people cracking their fetch lands makes them lose a life, which makes you get a card and get a counter on Ob. People using their City of Brass or anything like that will gain a counter on Ob and draw you a card. Uh, People just have incidental ways to pay life, damage themselves, and even like accidental dink effects, like swinging in with that elf to trigger their Timna, will also draw you a card or impulse
Yeah,
you a
yeah, yeah.
card. So people
The
will,
accidental
without you
dink.
doing anything, draw you cards for Ob Nixilis, and then you'll be able to draw cards later, or draw cards later with your own effects.
I like
My
the
one,
accidental dink, Will.
yeah, my the
Accidental dink.
accidental dink, words to live by, accidental dink.
What's your
Um,
one hang up about Ob
so
Nixilis?
my
What are you gonna
one
say?
hangup is that we don't have a good paradox card with Ob Nixilis because we
Oh,
got all these different paradox things, but there's no paradox card that says deal one damage.
I think they were trying to be mindful. I think they were trying to be mindful of that.
Well, the
Well,
Watsy could go off at themselves because I
whoa,
like
whoa.
the accidental dink.
Well,
We need
hey,
the incidental dinks.
we don't mean that. This is a sponsored video, Will. We don't mean
No,
that.
no, yeah,
we
Watsy
love
couldn't go after themselves. We want the paradox. We
we
want the
love Wizards
paradox
of the
dinks.
Coast. Don't listen
But
to
yeah,
Will. Use
in
the
all
link in the
seriousness,
description.
it is probably fair to not have a paradox dink effect or
Yeah.
paradox ping effect, but I really want it. I'm greedy.
Do you are there any Ob Nixilis players in the audience right now? Do you use Grape Shot? Obviously, Grape Shot is a finisher in most instances when you are storming off. But how funny is it to just like storm and cast Grape Shot? Am I wrong? Grape
It's
Shot's
good. You can hit
it's
like a
good.
couple cards off of it.
A couple cards. Will, have you seen me flick a Grape Shot? Yeah, it's dope. Ob Nixilis Captive Kingdom. Let me know how this ranks for you so far as the year's legendaries are concerned. That's not what this video is. But I am curious to know like your thoughts or your considerations on the card. And the Sleeping Gloom says it was fine and modern, and I'm assuming this is in concern to the Finale of Devastation to
Or
search
the
up a power
Invasion of
hex mage.
Ikoria, yeah.
Or sorry, Invasion of Ikoria to remove all counters from it in instant flip. Yeah,
Hmm.
that seems good. That seems playable. But yeah,
Yeah.
Will, what are your favorite cards from Mom? What are your
So
what are
I'm
your favorite
surprised
cards?
because you did not hit a single one on my primary list.
I guess that means there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, so I'll start off with Phyrexian Censor, the second best rule of law in the game right now.
Yes, we made a fun short video on this that I'll encourage you to watch. Just comb through our shorts. They're all great.
So Phyrexian Censor is 2 and white for a 3/3, which is a really good stat line, on top of the fact that he says, non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped. Players can only cast one non-Phyrexian spell per turn. Yeah, he just doesn't like people playing the game and doesn't like people getting creatures. So, yeah, he's
He's a
a
3/3
rulable.
too. 3 for 3/3 that does all that. It's kind of gross. Isn't this is this the chonkiest rule of law?
So we have a 2/3 and a 1/4.
Okay, well this is six. if I did
Yeah,
my math correctly, this
yeah,
is the
you did.
chunkiest rule of law. Okay, there you go. That's all I cared about. That yeah, Phyrexian Censor is great. I've seen Will play it.
Card's
What
gross.
was
Card's
it
gross.
fun? I'm not. No more comments beyond that. Will's played
It's
it.
it's really funny because I played
Read.
against a Phyrexian Censor the other day. I think from an Oswald deck, but
Oh,
this is
God.
the slow Oswald deck I was telling you about on Wednesday, and it was
Yeah.
really funny because I played Spellskite, which if you didn't know is a Phyrexian. So everyone was like,
You're like, eat it, eat
yeah,
it, and I'm gonna keep playing one more card.
yeah, Lotus
Uh,
Petal. That was my next card.
fair. You should have started with the Lotus Petal and then played the Censor so that someone tried to catch you, and
Yeah,
you're like, no. Read the type, sir. Read the
yeah,
type. All right. So Phyrexian Censor, decently playable.
yeah.
Decently.
And
I'll give you that.
bonus points for having a neck game to compete with Fleshy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get to
he has the
we'll get to.
freaking giraffe neck.
Fleshy is, you know what, for someone with a scaly neck that clearly doesn't stretch, it is competing with Fleshy.
Yeah, is that bone? Like, is that like
It looks like
exterior bone?
looks like bone. It looks like their neck is doing some sort of accordion effect. It's almost like a slinky. But there's also like a gullet that, well,
Yeah,
okay, we'll move on.
yeah. He is a thing that exists. My
Yes.
next one, and I'm surprised that this was not on your list, Patrick. Hoarding Broodlord.
Yes. Hoarding
You know,
Broodlord.
Hoarding Broodlord.
The
So Hoarding Broodlord
Broodlord.
is the cousin of Razaketh. So it's
Yeah.
8 mana for what is it? A 5/5 4/3? I can never remember. But
It's
it's
a
8 mana
seven
for
six.
yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. It's big. Yeah.
It's good. It's
Uh,
good.
so
It's chunky as well.
yeah, 8 mana for 7/6 with Convoke. ETB, search your library for a card and exile it. You can play that card from exile, and all cards in your exile have Convoke. Um,
It's not bad.
so
That's not bad.
Hoarding Broodlord is really good for the combo that people know it for, where it's Hoarding Broodlord, Saw in Half, finding Sacrifice, and Peer into the Abyss. Tap one token for Sacrifice, tap the other token for Peer into the Abyss, and some of the Sacrifice mana win the game with Peer
Or
into the Abyss.
Burnt Offering in your Ob Nixilis deck,
Yeah, indeed,
right?
indeed.
And the spells you cast from exile have Convoke. It's pretty good.
So
You've
this is
yeah.
debatably better Rosaketh though, because you don't have to pay any life to do your thing, and also it has Convoke, so you don't even need to do the whole reanimate cheat thing. You might just be able to hard cast it, and it's legendary, meaning that, or it's non-legendary, meaning that you can shallow grave it, or unmarked grave it.
Yeah, I remember when we brought that up, like this being in competition with Razaketh, there was a little bit of pushback. I think that it's more accepted now as a general combo card, but it's not hard to, imagine the value with a piece like this. I mean, obviously, ET being, there are other ways you can flicker and generate value here as well, right? So you're cheating around a lot of the strategy of a Razaketh that is a little bit more commanding on the player. I remember one of the things you would do is you'd get life death. There's some old Razak. I think the person who sort of pioneered the combo line, or at least became famous for it, I think they called their deck Razakats. But basically, you would like have one creature. You needed X amount of lands and X amount of creatures to start the combo. It was a little convoluted, and you shoot yourself in the foot when you do it because life death makes your lands creatures, and you basically break your lands. It was very weird, very drawn out. Hoarding Broodlord, not difficult to do, and it's using good cards. I don't know. I like everything about it. Also, the on the back end, the spells you cast from exile have Convoke is actually really good for those impulse draw decks. So, and it itself can convoke as soon as it was played. So that was part of the strategy for the Saw in Half build up. It's just a good card. It's good in so many ways. I've actually played games where I've played it and I wasn't able to combo for some reason or other, and I have a 7/6 flyer now. So it never felt bad having a 7/6 flyer. Did Rona Herald of Invasion make it on the list? Might be one of my favorite cards of the year. We'll talk about it. Right after we get through, I think, Will's last card.
Yep, I got one more. And funnily enough, Rona Herald of Invasion is on my maybe list, but I didn't even get to go into my maybe list because Patrick had a completely separate list from what I thought he would have.
Pat kept picking all these poop cards. No, no,
uh,
I wanted to bring up Cosmic Rebirth because I don't think it's really on anyone's
Anyone's
list.
radar.
But I like the effect a lot, and I think we should value those effects more.
Yeah.
But
Agreed. And my last card is Filter Out, and this is just a really nice board wipe and potential combo enabler. So Filter Out, one blue for an instant. So yeah, it's an instant speed board wipe, and it says return all non-creature, non-land permanents to their owner's hands. This is really good because you can bounce all of your fast mana and replay all of your fast mana, and this is really good for decks like Joyra, where you care about getting all those artifacts back to your hand so that you can recast them, in addition to the fact that this bounces a lot of stacks pieces. Like, it won't
mm-hmm,
bounce Opposition Agent, but it will bounce actual Rule of Law.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It won't bounce the Phyrexian Censor.
It will not bounce a Phyrexian Censor.
Who's a 3/3, mind you. Yeah, no, Filter Out's interesting. It also got really cool art. I just want to point out this art.
It's got two cool arts. Like, it's got the OG art, which actually doesn't look too bad. Then it has the
Yeah,
alternate art, which also doesn't look too bad.
right. It's the same dude, but on a coin, which they should
Why
make
is
into a token. By the way, I would love
really
to
quick,
see that.
why is that guy in particular so notable? Like, what did he do to get his face engraved on a coin? Is he like the founding father of merfolk or some crap?
You don't know this Merfolk?
You don't
You
know
Filter
Kevin?
Out, Kedin, the Filter Out Merfolk. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what his storied past is. Like what the glistening oil had been rendered inert, but plains wouldn't begin to truly heal until every last drop was purged. Um, I have no idea who this guy is. If you know who, can you?
So,
Excuse me, who is this merfolk in this picture? Please let us know. He's been missing. We want to know who he is. But no, I'm very curious as to who. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why he belongs in a golden coin either. Will, but the card itself is quite good. Golden coin worthy.
really quick, so this guy canonically is just a freaking environmentalist who's cleaning up a BP oil spill. Like, he's the guy who's using Dawn to wash a duck. Like, that's
Yeah,
this guy,
he was
and
in the
he's on a
commercial.
coin for it.
He was in the commercial. Yeah, it's a little pretentious. He was the one who demanded the coin be minted, by the way. So. But he had no duck allowed. They were gonna put the duck in the water there, but he's like, no, no, no. I don't want to share the spotlight with anyone. It's a cool card, and it's an interesting one too. I feel like it's always up for debate in the list that want it, and there are people. There's two camps. There's people that are completely for it, and there's people that are just against it. I think at 3CMC, the double blue is what is maybe off-putting about this, but it's such a good card. I'm in total agreement. Nice joined a little later. Sleeping Gloom, you joined perfectly because we happen to be on fighting a sneeze. We happen to be on Mom. We happen to be all over your mom right now. So Mom and the Aftermath, which we'll get to later. Talk to your dad about it. Sorry, I'm just playing with what they named the set. Rhoda Herald of Invasion. It happens to be a Dimir legendary, and how do I know this? Because of the Phyrexian black on the card. It's so weird. I don't know when we caught wind of the combo that people were playing for this, but I don't think it was initially when we saw this. We saw the value of this card, but we didn't see
Yeah,
the
it has
immediate
some really
combo.
cool, fun, casual stuff and like a tiny bit of competitive stuff excluding the combo. But then someone pointed out the combo, and then I'm like, wait, yeah, this is a whole thing. And then I start spreading it around and start seeing that other people are also already spreading it around. And I'm like, oh, so this is just a combo that we missed. Dang.
Yeah. So
Um,
Rona Herald of Invasion is a generic and a blue 1/3 body human wizard. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap Rona Herald of Invasion. Oh, draw and then discard a card. For 5 and a Phyrexian black, you can transform Rona. Will, do you want to highlight said combo while we're here?
So I also do want to point out the backside because the backside is
Oh yeah.
kind of cool. So just trample when a source does damage to this. Sorry, 5/5 trample. When a source does damage to this, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand. You can play that card without paying its mana cost. Very funny because if you build a pinger deck in casual, you can ping your own Rona and then cast all your stuff for free. It's very funny. Um,
So good.
but the competitive side, and there's two kind of competitive sides, and I'm going to point out the combo, then the other reason why it's competitive outside of the combo. So you have Rona with either Banishing Knack or Retraction Helix, which both do the exact same thing, so we can just show one. And it's
Super
one
chat.
blue, instant, until the end of the turn, target creature has tap, return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you have Mox Amber, or if you have Mox Opal, then
Gold
you
one.
can cast it, untapping Rona, tap Rona, bounce it to your hand after tapping it, then recast it, and then do that again and again and again, and make infinite mana. This is also Infinite Storm, which isn't horribly relevant, but is somewhat relevant. And then you'll be able to just generate infinite mana. You still need an outlet for it, and you'll be able to loot once to keep going, but yeah, it's just a really good
So
infinite mana combo or a
Will
very
is
interesting
clearly
infinite mana
not a
combo.
fan of Tendrils of Agony, by the way.
Well, Tendrils of Agony is fine, but you can also just use any tutor for
I
with a
know,
mana outlet.
I know. I'm just saying the storm is relevant, sir, okay? What if you want
I
to
am the
finish with a
storm that's
fishbowl?
approaching. I am the storm that's approaching. But
Well,
the
I
other
mean,
reason why I really like Rona is just a looter in the command zone, which is really relevant if you want to do any of the Rust packages, which are much easier now that Winds of Abandon is a card, which we may or may not be referencing in the very near future. But
mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to do instant speed end step wins, and if you have Rona, you can discard a Thorkel at instant speed to Shallow Grave Thorkel at instant speed on your end step, and then Demonic Consultation. So Rona is also just a really good Rust commander, in addition to being a weird combo commander.
Concurred. Concurred. Yeah, if there are any other cards you guys want to discuss from Mom, do let us know in the live chat. Obviously, bring up your favorite cards also when this video releases as a VOD. We'd love to hear your entire list. If you have a list of your favorite cards, all the way from Phyrexia, all will be one to the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, let us know those. But we're moving on to a little known set. The IP
Based off of
itself, yeah, it's like people, I don't know if people really care about this.
yeah, it's based off
This,
of like some kind of popular book series and like a movie trilogy that people seem to like for some random reason. I don't
it's
know.
like a fantasy genre that people don't really care about, truthfully. So
It's
the thing
very
is called
niche,
Lord of the,
very niche.
what is it called? Lord of the Hoops?
I thought it
Lord
was
of
Lord of the
the,
Circles.
Lord of the Circles. I think it's Lord of the Circles, you're right. So there's this one circle that's really important in universe,
The one
and this,
circle to control them all.
right. So like gnomes get circles, these humanoids get circles, like seven princes. And God, I really wish I read up on the lore. So yeah, there's this one circle that actually gets a printing in the universe for Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle Earth. And you know, I saw it. I thought, hey, that seems okay.
It's a dang good circle.
It's a darn good circle. It's a really straight. The circle seems to light up with text when it's near
And when you
fire.
put it in your fire, I don't know why, but it keeps appearing in my pocket for some reason.
Oh my god, and it keeps appearing on the battlefield of everyone's deck. It's the One Ring for 4 generic legendary artifact, indestructible. When the One Ring enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. The most important aspect of this card I just read. We can probably ignore the rest, but you know what? Let's not. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring. Well, this seems awful. Why would you use this? You
But
can tap it
Patrick,
to put up.
nothing puts burden counters on this card. What? How could this card ever get burden counters on it? I haven't heard of a
Oh,
burden
don't worry.
counter before.
Don't worry, you're gonna learn about burden counters now. Put a burden counter on the One Ring, then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. Well, I hear yourself saying, "Well, shoot, this sounds like a something you would want in a proliferate deck." Or man, how do you get more burden counters on here? Well, there's so many ways. So
We
just sit and think with me for a second. If you tap this once, you draw one card, right? So 4 mana, draw one card. Eh. But the next time you tap it, you draw two cards. So it's like virtually 4 mana, draw three cards. That's pretty good. The next time you tap it, you draw three cards. And you'll have drawn up to 6 cards. Enlist that, leverage this for more than just long-term value over the course of a grindier game. You can very easily storm off with the One Ring. And I'm not talking about Minds Matter or whatever the blue card is.
Mind over matter.
Mind over Matter. Like, I get that's an A plus B combo. It's impractical. Even for the people that are playing this card, I don't think anyone's really. I haven't run into anyone who's done that combo. It'd be really cool to see it. I use it
I
on a
run
list.
it in Arkham.
Will uses it in a blue list. Well, mono blue has every excuse to run the
Yeah.
Mind Over Matter combo, but basically you can draw your deck with that. You could draw your deck with this in a million different ways. It's good value. Again, you only lose the life at the beginning of your upkeep, so make it count. It's a very good card. It's hard to remove because of the indestructible. It's very flavorful. People would like this to be eroded to say that only one of these can be on the battlefield at the same time. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it kind of takes away some of the fun, and I think that fun should be at the forefront of every decision made when it comes to rulings. But yeah,
Patrick, we need the one ring to rule them all, and then the second ring to rule them all, and then the third ring to rule them all, and then the
yes.
fourth ring to rule them all.
Yes. Yes. See, but like it's your own you're in your own little corner when you have the One Ring, right? So it's like in this universe,
I have my precious. You have your precious. Let's
exactly.
keep our preciouses separate.
Yeah, separate but equal. Separate but equal preciouses. Except for when I have, Unwinding Clock down, then they're not equal.
Unwinding clock and voltaic key and manifold key and
Yeah.
clock bowman.
Right. So I don't know if you've not watched an FNM where either I or Will have played the One Ring in a deck that's piloting for the One Ring. You'll not know how effective it can be, but if you just play it in your blue farm list, enjoy that. It is drawing your cards.
To do the quick math for anyone who doesn't know the One Ring, let's say you get the One Ring out and then you tap and draw a card. The next turn in Oswald or Arkham, you search out Unwinding Clock. Okay, so then you're going to draw 2 on your turn, and 3 on your opponent's turn, and 4 on the next opponent's turn, and then 5 on the next opponent's turn. So that means in total, Unwinding Clock is giving you 3 more reactivations in a single rotation, and now you've gone from 2 burden counters to 5 burden counters, and in total you've drawn a total 14 cards in 1 turn rotation. And then you play Unwinding Clock and all of those 0 mana artifacts that you just drew off of those 14 cards, and then you're going to be drawing 5, or you're going to be activating the ring like 3 to 4 times on your turn, and 3 to 4 times on the next guy's turn, 3 to 4 times on the next guy's turn, 3 to 4 times on the next guy's turn, and now you're in the double digits of burden counters, and your deck is in your hand, and you win.
You shouldn't lose, I guess I should say. Yeah, and I use a bounce effect in case I will ever die to the One Ring, but usually doesn't come down to that. It's a good card. You should own a copy. There's a holiday reprint run. If you didn't buy any product for Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, and almost too much to even note. I'm kind of getting the heavy hitters out of the way, but there are a lot of cards from this set I really like. But the next one I want to talk about, it's kind of been a staple since it was printed, and I'm going to look up the art that I personally enjoy, although there is good art. Both treatments for the bordering as well as art on both ends. But Orcish Bowmasters. What hasn't been said? It's a generic and a black for a 1/1 orc archer with flash. Of course. Yes. Because we all know Bowmasters to be lightning fast. When Orcish Bowmasters enters the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card except for the first one they draw, in each of their draw steps, Orcish Bowmasters deals 1 damage to any target, then amass 1 orcs. They couldn't fit in more text, so they stopped there. But it seems like they wanted to. It's not limited to once per turn. Thank goodness they couldn't fit any more text. And it just does really broken things in a lot of different ways. It can be a finisher in certain lists. It can just be value in certain lists. It's certainly removal in every list. People are trying to draw pretty much every game. And if there's a one ring out, then you are going to punish that person.
Yep, and then
It's
also
good.
notable random line is it is a Razaketh combo card. It will make a bunch of orc tokens that you can sack in between triggers. So if you do
Mm-hmm.
Dark Deal, Razaketh, Orcish Bowmaster, you're good. And funnily enough, you have an orc token on ETB to sacrifice to find Dark Deal. So Mono Black has a kind of clean Razaketh line now.
Yeah. Or even Orzov. Watch our Carmen video yesterday.
Yeah,
Did
it was
we?
very clean.
I do, well, just let it be a surprise. It's clean. It's clean. watch
Uh,
watch the stream. Watch the stream yesterday. Seriously. People. I don't think I wrote down Carmen. I should have. Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher is a really cool legendary that just came out. Maybe the best CDH legendary we've seen in years. You should watch the video. See how it performs. People were
Indeed,
worried
indeed.
that Carmen would come down on turn 7. I brought Carmen down on turn 2 and turn 3 and won games not shortly after. It was very weird. I was playing it like it was some sort of turbo list, and I gotta say, it was actually more consistent than the Dargo Silas we did in the next build. It was a double feature. Watch the stream. It was a good stream. I enjoyed those
I,
two builds.
also want to point out the funny thing of this has flash, so it's faster than Legolas, but then it also doesn't have reach, so for some reason they can't look up.
Yeah, no, 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 not these bowmasters. No, these bowmasters only fire in straight lines, sir. Yeah, they're not good at
They-
anything
We
aerial.
we fire at man.
Exactly. We fired, man. We're not worried about those drakes. They're on our side.
Even though we constantly get our butts handed to us by these giant flying eagles, we don't shoot up.
Yeah.
That's why the eagles are so good against them. They can't look up. Key flaw of orcs. They don't have the proper
Canonical.
neck muscles to do that. They can only look
Yeah.
straight forward.
It is canonical. Yeah. So in case you were wondering why, it is written as so. So, as I mentioned, there was a holiday re-release of Lord of the Rings: Tales of Middle Earth, and outside of the Orcish Bowmasters and the One Ring, there were a handful of new cards that you might want to pick up outside of the reprints. And one of the cards, and only because I have to, we have to make quotas here. And we did want to discuss, at least I wanted to discuss, one green card. And that green card is Legolas's Quick Reflexes. So, the best way to get this is to buy one of the collage sets. Get them before they run out. I don't really know what the reprint run on this set is going to look like. But if you didn't get a copy of this card, along with those two other cards I mentioned, I'm going to say that Lord of the Rings probably had the most impactful cards in the year of 2023 for Commander players. Just the two I mentioned alone. But this is a really cool utility. So for one green, instant speed, split second. If you don't know, it means you don't get to do anything. Practically. Untap target creature. Until end of turn, it gains haste. Haste. Hexproof. Reach. Hey, Bowmasters. And whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power to up to one target creature. Does it have enough effects, Will?
No, needs more. Needs to also buff for no good reason.
So, obviously, a Savala player would want this. Why not double your mana generation and also tap and just crush something?
It's
There's a
so
lot of
strong. Like, 'cause
yeah,
it's really good in Morrowind. It's really good in Selvala. It's really good in any commander that says tap because it's protection, removal, and an untap.
yeah,
Lord.
yeah. It's so weird. Like it's a whole series of things too. Like depending on when you map this out, like if there's a flyer just attacking you, generally speaking, if there is the Aven Mind Sensor or there is the Crom or there's some sort of thing with evasion, they will try to get in on you to get that Timna draw, or they'll just try to do chip damage for one reason or another, or maybe it's Malcolm flying in, whatever it is. You also just happen to get reach on the back end. So before you use this creature that presumably tapped for some reason or another to tap it again, You could kill the thing in exchange. It's hexproof, so they can't deal with it. It's split second, so you can't deal with this. And then after you kill the thing off the block and you tap it for whatever value, you're also killing another thing. I want to see like how often you do all of the things this can do. It's extremely layered. But even just 1 mana hexproof split second is good enough.
Yeah.
Even just that is good enough. Um so
But
look,
then
I think they
for some reason it also untaps and also gives reusable removal. Because I want to point out that you can put this on Sylva. Let's say Marwyn.
right,
I actually like Marwyn a tiny bit better because Marwyn buffs herself for the pink
right,
part at least.
right.
So you can tap Marwyn for a bunch of mana, use reflexes to untap Marwyn, and that's your one spell per turn off of that Archon of Myria. You tap tap Marwyn and kill Archon of Emeria. Then you play a spell to untap Marwyn and buff Marwyn. Then you tap Marwyn to kill that opposition agent so you can now search. Then you're gonna play another untap Marwyn, tap Marwyn, kill something else. And you're
Mm-hmm.
just blowing up an entire board. So this is nearly a board wipe in some lists as well.
Yeah, and depending on what you're trying to do, like a lot of those mono green lists are trying to flood the board and kill opponents. But sometimes the issue could be that there are just too many relevant blockers. Well, this removes relevant blockers. Yeah, it's good. It's good. And again, like Will was saying, like in those lists, if you've never played Savala's Storm or Marwyn Storm, you are constantly relying on tapping and untap effects. So the fact that this consequential damage, I'm glad it's limited to target creature because obviously this would just be an outlet, if not. But I like that it's not restricted to once per turn. So you're absolutely right. You can just punish people. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why this card is good. Um, it's uh, it's 1873 and $35 for a reason. Again, you could get it in the bundle. I think the price of the bundle is $30 or something like that. It's the cost of admission is totally worth it if you're just trying to pick up the single. It's one of the better instant speed spells we've seen in a very long time.
We just need a green bomb though. Like green just needs
Mm,
their own Dockside style of thing, or their own Thoracle style thing, or their
yeah,
own Esper Sentinel style thing. Because currently green is just lacking. Because green's
yeah,
best thing is dorks, but you don't need mana if you have consistency.
yeah. At any rate, Will, Lord of the Rings, what do you have for us from this fantasy set, this random fantasy set that came out?
Yeah, so I had the gift bundle and Lord of the Rings separate, but I can quickly link them together because I had Bowmaster and the One Ring on my list as well. So those
Hmm.
are knocked out for me. So I'll start off with another one from the holiday bundle, and I'll do Galadriel's Dismissal. So Galadriel's Dismissal is 1 white for an instant with 2 in white for kicker, and target creature phases out. If this was kicked, all creatures target player controls are phased out. So this is kind of a Swords to Plowshare Path to Exile, with the downside being the thing returns
Mm-hmm.
sooner or later. Uh, but it's really good because it's also a Wrath of God on one player, and you can use it on your own stuff to protect your own stuff. Like I've had a game where I used Suspend, which is just 1 blue, exile a creature on the board, put 3 suspend counters on it, and then it'll come back. I've used
Mm-hmm.
that on my own Kennen to win a game just by doing the Salt Monolith combo and holding it back. This does the same thing. You just protect a creature you want, or remove a creature you don't want, or board wipe somebody. This is one of
Yeah.
the best pieces of removal that we've had in a while.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a variation on March of Swirling Mist, which is I think an underutilized utility. I think blue just has so much good stuff that it's difficult to fit in cards like this unless you are mono or dual colored. But giving white a same or similar effect, I should say, is really favorable. Again, like Will's saying, this could just be the thing to protect your thing. That's the other half of what's the boy's name? The fairy's protection that people like so much. Phasing is an old keyword that was brought back not too long ago, and it's weird because people kind of don't understand how it works in a lot of instances. The creature is it's never considered to have left the battlefield. So when the thing comes back, if your strategy was relying on it tapping for any reason, proceed. You know, you can still do that. I almost feel like I could probably utilize this in Oswald. I think I pulled a copy. Um,
I recommend this for Oswald because
yeah,
you can
it's
just
good.
protect your Oswald or just board wipe someone's stacks for a turn. Because also the
Right.
best part is that this is temporary removal. And I mean that the best part is because if you're playing a fast combo deck and you combo off after removing someone's stacks pieces and you fizzle, you're giving the next person the game unless those stacks pieces return, which they will on that person's next turn. So if the guy to the left of you is the one with stacks pieces, this is a
Hmm.
fantastic card.
Yeah. So you won't be ring making if you fail. No, no king making in this game. Yeah,
No kick, kick, kick.
it's good. It's very good. Also the tableau for this is really beautiful.
Yeah, I
But
love it.
so I like this card a lot. It's I think we can combine the two from the holiday reprints and stuff. But yeah, I need to see if I have a copy. I because you're is it in the I think you're getting that one.
It's in the one that I'm getting, but I think I also pulled the copy and I can give it to you if I can give slash trade it to you because I'm like I don't need to. If I have
Eight
one, I'm fine.
but $8 though. Yeah, I do want to foil one though. I am pretentious like that.
Is
Isn't
there a
this
foil one? I don't know if there's a foil for
oh
the art
so
ones.
I will check with my sources. But Eric
I
Chu, I was literally typing your name in instead of the card. You said clever concealment. So I will thoughts on this. Is Galadriel's dismissal just a worse clever concealment? Go.
really quick, I need to look at clever concealment.
I got you. Two
Um
generic double white instant speed convoke. Any number of target non-land permanents you control. Phase out.
uh Gladriel's is usually better because you can target your opponent's stuff as well. And I know this hits permanents, but Galadriel's hits creatures, which is what you usually want to hit most of the time anyways, and you just can hit all of an opponent's things as well. Or all of your things if you really need to. So
Right.
Gladriel's is just better in most scenarios.
So I Eric Chu, so you know, I did try using clever concealment in my Oswald list, and I'll say that there isn't a high enough threshold of creatures to get the convoke to go off the way you want it to. And in a lot of instances, those creatures are tapped to begin with, Oswald in particular. Or in a lot of instances, you really don't want to tap said creatures. But when you do, you can protect your board, and this is a meaningful play. It is, though, a different type of utility. This is again very much the same as the Teferi's protection in that sense, in that it's only really caring about your stuff. Where, like Will was saying, if you're trying to do something quickly, generally speaking, the thing phasing out the temporary aspect of Galadriel's dismissal isn't a detriment, right? Because one, if it will come back and you failed, good. If it will come back and you succeeded, good. Right? So I think there's just a little bit more to the utility of Galadriel's dismissal, despite the fact that it lacks the range of non-land permanent. I wouldn't say it's a worse version. Also, depending on the list you're running, Clever Concealment is still a 4 CMC spell, right? Where March of Swirling Mist and this are both 1 CMC. So if the deck also runs Ad Nauseam and you just wanted this form of protection or temporary removal, this is better for the health of your deck.
Yeah.
And anyway, just
I'm also more
those thoughts.
focused on the fact that this is just another Swords to Plowshare.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you know, asterisks there. It will already explained his thoughts on that, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just another one
Um
to add to the list. I 100% agree. I like this a lot, and the art is so goofy. I need to yeah. I think
and
we'll see if there's a foil. If not, then we'll trade. Will.
I looked it up. There's a foil and there's a search foil. The regular foil is the same price as the non-foil, and then the search foil is like $3 more.
Sold. I got credit to use, so and I got some One Piece cards to buy. So TCG player, look out, look
Yeah.
out, TCG player.
Well,
But
for my next card, I have a card that is getting more and more combos, and I think it's going to have more combos for the future. Peregrine Took, or should I call him Fool of a Took? Um, Fool of a Took.
throw
So
yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity. Anyways,
Well, his special ability is second breakfast. Um,
yeah. Third
so
breakfast.
yeah, fourth breakfast. So whenever you make a token, Took makes a food token on top of that token that you made, and also you can sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card. Why is this so relevant? Well, we have Experimental Confectionist, I believe is the name of the card, and also the very soon to be spoiled Nuka-Cola machine.
We'll look at that
Um,
one instead. We'll look at that one instead, just because it's so cool.
yeah, so the entire idea of the combo is that if you make a token, you will make a food token as well. So for Nuka-Cola, when you sacrifice a food, you make a tapped treasure. If you sacrifice 3 foods at the same time, you have 3 independent triggers that each make a tapped treasure, which will make you 3 food on top of that. So you sacrifice those 3 food that you just made to draw a card and make 3 food and 3 tapped treasures. You repeat infinite and draw your entire deck. This is a really good green combo because you can tutor for Inventor's Fair to find Nuka-Cola, and in green, finding a land isn't too bad. If you're in Selesnya, you find Oswald and turn your Felwar Stone into a Nuka-Cola. Uh, if you're in Golgari, you have Experimental Confectioner and Nuka-Cola, and you have the good tutors to try to find either or. And then if you're in blue, you can easily find Nuka-Cola with the Reshape or with a Fabricate or anything like that. And
Transmute
yeah,
artifact.
there are so many good lines with Took that Took is with Nuka-Cola in the very near future is going to make green a much better color in my opinion because
Mm,
the only bottleneck on this combo is that you need to be able to make one more token at any point because Nuka-Cola will make you a food and Took will make that 2 foods. So you just need to make one extra food from anything else. So if you have anything that makes a soldier, or anything that makes a clue, or anything that makes a treasure, or anything that makes another food, then you have an infinite combo. So it's really easy to combo with this, and I think it's going to make green a much better color in the very near future. So Took, a revolutionary card once Fallout comes out.
yeah, I think that took, and this is a case where, I mean, I think it's playable now. Like Will highlighted experimental confectioner, confectionist, or whatever it is from Wilds of Eldraine, which we'll be touching on in
XCon.
just a second. Yeah, like, so it's playable now, and it's good now. It's one that will get progressively better, and at some point, there's just going to be a commander that A plus B's with this. I'm sure it's an outlet attached to a ridiculous utility that makes artifacts for you, and don't discredit the fact that it's just making artifacts, because in a lot of cases you could use those artifacts for a variety of things beyond what those artifacts normally do. So yeah, I like Peregrine Took quite a bit. If there were any other Lord of the Rings cards though that you guys want to talk about that we missed, let us know. Again, we could sit and talk about the set all day. There happens to be an enchantment in red that I really love from the set, but I do want to continue on with the rest of this year's sets. But yeah,
I
Lord of the
do,
Rings,
I
Tales of
do
Middle
have
Earth
my
had.
one more. I do have my
Oh,
one more.
I thought this
So,
was three.
no,
Oh, I'm
that was
sorry.
Galadriel and Took. So I got my one last one, and
Wait, is it an enchantment?
it is not an enchantment.
Okay.
It is a instant, and I mentioned this a tiny bit before. Born Upon a Wind. Card's really, really good. So I like this card. A lot of people like this card more than I like this card because I say if you're trying to win at instant speed or you want to just make your combos a little bit more consistent, or if you have Necropotence, play Born Upon a Wind. A lot of people will say if you are playing blue, play Born Upon a Wind, regardless of what your deck is trying to do. So
Hmm.
there's a there are a lot of options for this card. At worst, it's just a 2 mana cantrip. At best, it's win on end step with Necropotence because you can pay 35 life into Necropotence, and if you hit your Born Upon a Wind or find a way to tutor into your Born Upon a Wind, you play out that entire hand on your end step. This card is so good. We've also made the kind of joking reference of um, you ad nauseum on somebody else's turn with 2 mana floating, and then you just go like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I hit Born Upon a Wind in that ad naus pile. I'm gonna play on your turn, then move to my turn, and with my like 30 rocks now in play, I'm gonna combo off and win."
So gross. Well, in a lot of cases, you probably just win on the spot.
Yeah,
Genuinely, it's a good card. Uh, You should get a copy. I'm highlighting a new version of the card, this treatment that just came out, this scroll treatment that I really love. There are other versions of the card, though, and they're all in the sense. So if you don't own a copy, this is one of the rares from the set that just is very, very good. And you should probably just have in your commander arsenal. 100%.
Can I just also say I for some reason hate the scroll art for Born Upon a Wind, and I think it's because the black border looks
It
very intrusive on it. If it was full art, I would actually love this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of like how thick the black bordering is. I feel like that's going to be a point of contention with a lot of people, but I actually like how small the scale is of the image. I will say with this though, what's cool about the scroll treatments is that they have this sort of a vignette, a sort of sepia wash vignette, like an old timey photo, where things sort of get blurred on the edges of that circular frame. Legolas is missing from this image kind of because of that treatment. That's the one hang up I have with it. Because in the other art, you can see very clearly that Gimli is knocking Legolas into the water, and it's goofy. Um, but anyway, at any rate, you have so many options for this card. So if you want full art, you literally, like Will was saying, it's literally the other version where it extends all the way to the edges. So treat yourself. But yeah, are there any other cards you guys want to look at from Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth? Let us know. We have so much to cover, from Commander Masters to Wilds of Eldraine to Doctor Who, and of course the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which we just covered here on the channel. LCI had a lot of cool stuff, and our pulls were really cool from LCI. But so far as
Yeah.
Commander Masters is concerned, it was more or less a reprint set for us Commander players to help us broaden our arsenal. I'm saying this, Commander Arsenal was a product before. It would be cool if it came back out. Kind of love, I like the prints from that set, and the foil treatment is really interesting from that set too. I actually quite like them. But one of the first cards I want to bring up is a card almost like Took that I feel like will only get progressively better, and it's Amarthus Ghostfire Initiate. So it's double X for a 0/0 Spirit Naga. Amarthus enters with X +1/+1 counters, so if you put 2 into this, it'll come in as a 1/1. Whenever you put one or more +1/+1 counters on another colorless creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Amarthus. So it's looking for a very specific type of build. When Amarthus dies, manifest a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of counters on it. So there are already ways to utilize this as an outlet with any I guess you could do some scavenger, what's it called? What is he called? The from Darksteel. Why can't I remember the name? It was a combo card in Teshar that would get
Oh, are you talking
infinitely.
about Bomberman?
No, the the what? Okay, well, it's a combo. I promise. Scavenger.
It's the one that's a sack to return a permanent that was put into the graveyard this turn.
No, it's such an important card
What does it do?
because it's important in other formats. It eats things. It's modular. It eats
Oh,
things in
Arcbound
different.
Ravager.
I know it was Ravenous something. Okay, so Dark Steel. We're going for the Dark Steel art. Sorry. So this art.
Yeah, I was like,
Sacrifice an
what
artifact, put a
what
1/1
shell
counter on.
combo thing is it? I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's it. That makes
But it's
sense.
also, there's a whole series of modular cards that obviously just benefit with a Marthas. I don't think you want to run Marthas as your combo, as your leader rather. Although having that A+B+C piece in the command zone does help. I think going colorless is difficult in Commander if you want to play competitively or competently in a lot of instances. But put a +1/+1 counter on this. You're able to like just do that, and then ultimately when this dies, you need a way to sacrifice it. You can manifest the top of your deck and like push everything onto the board. I think it's one of those cards that's it's niche playable. It does have combos, but right now it's just not. I don't think it's gonna be featured in anything. But I do want to point it out simply because I think you should keep your eyes on it. But Will, are there any play lines you can think of that you would really want to run with Ghostfire Initiate, or things to look out for, I guess?
So if we ever get a card that is a functional Helm of the Host, like one time use Helm of the Host that has the copy enter with a counter, then Amarthus gets a really good combo because if you have two Amarthus in play, they will trigger off of each other over and over and over again and become infinity infinities.
What would you need? You would need something that says, when a creature enters the battlefield, it enters with a +1/+1 counter, so you can like cheese this.
Yeah, so it's whenever it's literally you just need something that's like a 2 or 3 mana. This enters as a copy of a creature, except it's non-legendary and enters with a +1/+1 counter, something like that.
Okay.
So the issue is that it has to do a non-legendary copy, and the copy has to enter with a counter, because otherwise it just dies to state-based actions, because it would be a 0/0.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Amarthus can do a couple good things. He can grind kind of well, and if you do any kind of sack stuff, he'll be able to make you a good sized army. We also have some kind of interesting things that you can do, because I think you can use this new spear from Ixalan. I can't remember the name of it, but it's whenever an artifact your creature is put into your graveyard, equipped creature gets a +1/+1 counter. So if you sack Amarthus, replay Amarthus, or yeah, Amarthus, not Amarthus. If you replay Amarthus, then you can equip the spear to something else, sacrifice or sacrifice all of those manifest tokens that you don't want, get a bunch of counters on the one creature, getting a bunch of counters on Amarthus, and then sack Amarthus and keep going. So there's like probably some Phyrexian altered line using that.
Yeah, I can see that. Not bad.
Yeah,
Good show copy. It's pretty affordable. It was like the other foil leader in one of the precons, specifically the
the colorless one. It's like
colorless one.
Eldrazi Assault or something like that
We
was the name
made,
of the deck.
yeah, we made the deck. His Zuladoc.
Yeah, Zuladog is the name of the other commander.
So in that same, so all of the new cards, I should say, came from the Commander Masters precons. And one of the other cards I want to talk about is from that same Zuladoc deck, and it's Abstruse Archaic. So for 4 generic, 3/4 body, creature avatar, vigilance, pay 1, tap, copy target activated ability or triggered ability you control from a colorless source. You may choose new targets for the copy. So I always keep an eye out for these types of effects. They're always good to see. Obviously, this is a little bit more narrow than some of the other ones that are pre-existing, but it is an additional form of copy. What's nice though is that it can be activated or triggered. Oftentimes, these copy effects will just do one or the other. We've gotten a few of these in the past, but I don't know how many we have on a body. Doctor Who gave us one via Adric as well.
Adric,
Right.
mathematical genius.
What's cool though is that this can be in any deck. However, it only benefits from colorless things. What's interesting though is that when you copy the effect, it doesn't state that. Right. Ignore me. Ignore me. I was gonna say something untrue. But what's cool is it's also vigilance. So like if you're using this in a list that can benefit from the obvious effect of this ability, you can still get attacks in if you like. And 3 damage on board isn't the worst thing in the world. But Abstruse Archaic's a little bit of an oddity. It's certainly quirky, but I think it's niche playable in the future for certain decks. Again, almost similar to Amarthus.
Yeah, and man, if we only got a really good colorless card that's played in literally every single deck from this year, that would have a
I
really
know.
good activated ability to copy.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I think there are going to be lists that are going to want to copy that card you're talking about. Um, but I feel like people generally just use it for value, which is sad
Yeah.
because it's so much better than that. But at any rate, Abstruse Archaic's the other card I wanted to talk about. And there's one more. I'm cheating a little bit here. A lot of it will. So this is actually a reprint. The thing is, I did want to discuss the actual main set a little bit, and we haven't gotten this card in a very, very, very long time. And it's what? One of only 2 tutors I think I can mention that are relevant for 2023, and that's Personal Tutor. So,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, this card isn't for every list, but the original copy was really getting up there. If you never owned a copy from Portal, it was harder to get a hold of, and it's still a little expensive, but these reprints are sub $5, and you pay a blue, search your library for a sorcery card, reveal it, shuffle, and put that card on top. This is really good. Tutors in general are very important in a commander setting. Again, because it is singleton. So if the thing you need is sorcery, this will get you that thing. Um, it's a great card. It's notable mostly because it's a much needed reprint.
Yeah. I don't even think you realize how no or like how relevant what you said was, Patrick, because do you know the price of the Portal version of this card before this was announced as a reprint?
No.
About $90. Yeah. So it went from 90 to like now we can get one for like $4.
Bearing in mind also that this card was very affordable for a long time. Like when I got into playing Commander, it was sub $10 easily. Like because it's just not played. The thing is though, anything that's not on reserve list but can potentially see play, uh, people tend to buy out. So I imagine that that value, that inflated value, was just from a series of buyouts. The card itself is not a $90 card. However, I do think it's sub $10, and you can get them now for sub $10 with some really dope art.
Yeah, I think that when Peer into the Abyss was announced, it started jumping up a bit higher because that was one of the big notable sorceries that you wanted to tutor for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that made a bit of a difference.
So Will, what are your favorite cards from Commander Masters?
So
Masters.
surprisingly, you hit three that I did not even note on my list, and I was surprised because we had the exact same top three for Phyrexia All Be One,
Hmm.
but we didn't have any of the notable ones from the set that had like 12 new cards printed in it. Um, so my three to start off is Zuladoc, Void Gorger, and this is what you talked about. He's a fun, cool commander that
Fun, cool.
yeah, and a ton of people actually really like him, and he's performed surprisingly well for a colorless commander. Um, so Zuladoc is a 6 mana 7/6 that says all colorless spells that cost a high amount have double cascade. Um, yeah, that double cascade is really, really relevant because you're going to be able to storm off very easily. If you have any self-reducing cards, they're going to hit you two more cards. You're running a ton of mana rocks, so when you cascade at all, you're probably hitting mana rocks that will allow you to keep going. There is a combo as well using what's his name, Metalwork Colossus and any sack outlet. If you can get Metalwork to cost 0, you can cast Metalwork Colossus, cascading into likely two artifacts, sacrificing Metalwork Colossus, sacrificing two artifacts to occur Metalwork Colossus, and repeat infinitely to go through your entire deck. Then you can use something like Elixir of Immortality to loop through your deck infinitely and just win. But yeah, Zuladoc is just a really good gross value and combo commander. He does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I think the build we made for Zuladoc was genuinely good.
Yeah,
Like it did the thing. It did
I
not
don't
do
even
the thing.
I don't even think we ran the One Ring in that deck, and we probably should.
Did we not?
I don't think we did.
With our abstruse archaic? We could
I
have.
don't think we ran the arc. Did we run the archaic? I don't think we ran the archaic.
No,
Can't
well, there wouldn't
remember.
have been a as clear a reason, I guess. Like how much more cascade do you need? Well, I guess
Yeah.
as much as you want. Yeah, we fouled. We need to revisit. Let's make colorless a thing. We'll make colorless a
Well,
thing in 2024. Win all the tournaments. Okay. Yeah.
speaking of making colorless a thing, though, my next card is going to be Skittering Cicada. But if you want to give your Zuladoc impressions first, we can do that.
No, no, no. I just what I'm gonna recommend that you do is look up our Zuladoc Void Gorger build here on the channel. It does a better job of explaining how it functions, at least in a vacuum, with some of our playtesting. Like it was very, very fun to build out and play, and it actually works really well. So, Will said fun, but I'll stress competitive. Feel like you could probably steal a win with that deck.
Yeah.
But Skittering Cicada.
So Skittering Cicada, it is just another Shimmermere. I don't think there's a ton else to say. 3 mana 2/2 with flash that says your colorless spells have flash, and when you cast a colorless spell, he gains power equal to the CMC. he's just a bug boy that is another Shimmermere. Debatably better, debatably worse Shimmermere. And the only reason why I say, oh, sorry, plus X, not just plus X plus O. But the reason why I say debatably better, debatably worse. So one, it's a self-buffer, meaning that it can be a win con just by storming off and making Skittering Cicada really big. Uh, it also says all of your colorless spells, not all of your artifacts, which is why it's better and or worse. So
Right.
in my Zur deck, I don't run Skittering Cicada, but I run the other two because I run Wishclaw Talisman, and I can't play Wishclaw Skittering Cicada. In my Arkham deck, I run the other two, but I don't run Skittering Cicada because of or Midnight Clock. And Midnight
Mm-hmm.
Clock is actually a very relevant card in the deck and is a relevant combo piece. So I didn't want Skittering Cicada. Theoretically, I could run Skittering Cicada in both of those decks because like 90% of the artifacts that I run would still be castable, but yeah, it's the niche situations are why I don't run Skittering Cicada, but the fact that Skittering Cicada will probably be like a 2020 very quickly is really good, and you can easily abuse that effect. So, Skittering Cicada is another Shimmermere.
Yeah, there's Urza's Liberator, and
Yeah,
there's this, and there's
Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter, Shimmermere, and then Born Upon Wind is kind of another one, but also kind of not.
right. But so far as permanent based ones, there's like the big three now. I think they're all notable, and you should definitely have them cataloged. I do think that generally speaking, the other two will hit a wider range of effects that you're probably trying to go for. At least from the list Will highlighted there. But yeah, totally agree. This is just another one that I'm sure it's in the pennies, right? Oh, it's $2.
Yeah.
One that you definitely want to own a copy of because I feel like it will ultimately slot into a list. Like having, especially when you're storming off turn, this is a good way to cheat in wins. Composer of Spring is good for enchantment decks. Will.
Well, guess what my next card is? My third and final card, Composer of Spring. So, Composer of Spring is kind of like a mini Kodama. Oh, hold on.
What?
I'm typing it up so I can get an exact wording on it. So, Composer of Spring is 1 and a green for a 1/3 with Constellation. So, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 6 or more enchantments, instead put a creature or land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So, the funny thing that you can do with Composer of Spring, if you're playing anything like Sithis, this is just very nice because it will let you play out your lands a little bit faster and ramp a tiny bit harder. But the really, really dumb thing that you can do is that you can play a enchantment, which will trigger this, which will let you play an enchantment creature, which will let you play an enchantment creature, which will let you play an enchantment creature, which will let you play an enchantment creature. So you dump every enchantment creature from your hand into play for free, and then you play a land or a creature for free. Uh, this can do some fun, dumb things with stuff like Protean Hulk or any deck that wants to cheat out a big creature to try to win. It can do some stuff with like Razakath, Hoarding Broodlord, anything like that. Or if you're feeling really spicy,
Sithis.
Cultivator Colossus.
Mm. Yeah, well, is Sithis on the cast? Let me read this girl, actually.
This is cast, sadly.
Yeah, never mind. We don't like it anymore. Well,
Yeah,
Sithis players.
we get this Toy Story meme of like, I don't want to play with you anymore.
Exactly. I do think that Composer of String is still good in Enchantress list, though. Don't get me wrong. I think that you're still getting the benefit, like even if you don't utilize that combo that Will was highlighting in that way. But Pupsum says could also count Gandalf for white as another version. That's true. That's true. Gandalf, I think the thing between them is the fact that they are 3 CMC and colorless to do so. But Gandalf is a variant that works the same way, aside from the fact that he's a 5 mana instead, right? So, Flash, you may cast legendary spells and artifact spells as though they had Flash. And obviously, there's more to this card, but yeah, Gandalf definitely counts. Elevir is nuts with Composer. Oh man, Oh man, spilling the beans on the Wilds of Eldraine. Don't worry, we're actually going to get to Wilds of Eldraine in a second. Yeah, I have no deep thoughts on Composer of Spring. It's just another one of those cards that's good value. Like, I feel like Commander Masters this year was great for just refreshing your collection and getting a handful of utilities that have good value, and then ultimately will become more playable as time goes on. That's how it works with every new card. Like almost like what we were talking about with Took. I feel like Took is just going to get increasingly better with time, especially when
I mean,
Nuka
the
Cola
fact
comes
that
out.
Took got printed and then in the same year to like functionally early the next year got two combos. Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't say that's by design, right? I think they were just trying to make Nuka Cola like a good representation of that card, and it's like, oh, consequently, I guess we just made another broken A plus B with this other card. But yeah, I think on that note, though, we can swap over to the next set. It's funny, I there was a lot this year. Apparently, I didn't we've been streaming for nearly 2 hours, and I'm gonna encourage you guys at this point, if you've been watching this whole time and you're enjoying the content, to do leave it a like. It does go a long way. Yes, it worked this time. These are really fun to do, these live streams. I always love having you guys captive. I mean, I love having you guys join us for these because the conversation is my favorite part. That's why we do these live. So do feel participate to whether this is a VOD or whether you're here for the live with your favorite cards from any of the sets we've mentioned. Obviously, we're moving on from Commander Masters, but if there's something we missed from that set and you want to talk about it, let us know. But for the Wilds of Eldraine, I feel like we're probably going to have some of the same cards here, Will. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Agatha's Soul Cauldron seems like a good one, though.
Yeah,
So,
Agatha's Soul Cauldron may or may not have been on my top three list as well.
yeah, there's a couple of cool mythics from the set, but Agatha's Soul Cauldron at 2 generic for a legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. So I still don't have this in Oswald, and it's something I've been wanting to test in Oswald. Namely for that first effect, honestly, that's just good in and of itself. Like I just want that. I just want to have Oswald online for generic. But creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Cauldron. Well, I don't have modular effects pad. I'm not putting counters on things. How am I slow down? Tap. Exile target card from a graveyard. It doesn't need to be a creature. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. There are plentiful of combos for this card. I'll invite the chat or you and the audience afterwards to leave your favorite Agatha Soul Cauldron combo down. Genuinely, there's so much you can do with this card that it's sort of like a brewer's paradise because it's splashable at 2 generic. It'll work as an excellent Grave Hate effect for any deck and will benefit if the thing you're exiling has activated abilities. So in a way, it's a great way to cheat out effects like that of Razaketh. But obviously, there's far more you can do with this. It's a really good card, and I think it's definitely one you should have in your arsenal. But again, this is one of those cards that's driving a much higher price. It's only had the one print run, so I think it's above 40 pretty much for every single version. Probably get it on the low end if it's like lightly played or used. But Agatha Soul Cauldron, I haven't gotten my copy yet, but I still want to get a copy. I'm so upset we didn't pull one.
Well, since you wanted us to list Agatha's Soul Cauldron combos, I'll give my personal favorite right off the bat. So this requires you to have an Agatha's Soul Cauldron in play and a handful of creatures. And the idea is that your opponent entombs a Razaketh and casts Animate Dead on Razaketh, forgetting Agatha's Soul Cauldron is a card that exists. And then you exile their Razaketh in response to them animating dead the Razaketh, and then combo off on their turn with your
Mm-hmm.
newfound Razaketh creature.
That or you use your Skittering Cicada to just play it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
you just Agatha Soul Cauldron their Razaketh, turning your commander into a copy of Razaketh, and then you just sack all of your creatures, cast Born Upon a Wind, Skittering Cicada, Liberator, whatever, and then tumble off and end the game on their turn. Yeah,
Not
that's
bad.
one thing so many people forget because a lot of people know that you can exile your own stuff to get activated abilities. A lot of people know that you can exile your opponent's stuff to do Grave Hate. A lot of people forget that you can exile your opponent's stuff to get their activated abilities.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I feel like Razaketh is still one of the prime reanimate targets. So Agatha, just for that alone, is solid. But again, with how prevalent Underworld Breach is, just exiling the best thing that they were going to recast is so important while that's on the stack. Like if it's that DT or that gamble, it's enough. It's honestly enough in a lot of cases. Or just putting them
Yeah.
off numbers to even have the math for Underworld Breach, right? So far as cards they need to escape. But
The other really notable thing, and this is something a lot of people forget about, but I know a couple people do remember, this is really good in the Wooburg Sisay deck because it replaces the Wooburg cost with 5 generic and it buffs your Sisay. So it does everything that you would want in that Sisay deck in one card.
she finds legendary creatures.
Legendary permanents.
Okay. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Pretty darn good. The next card I want to talk about is another mythic rare from the set that also kind of drives a high value, but this one I would say is more playable in a lot of different scenarios because for generic and triple black, bargain, you may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token as you cast this spell. Search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. If this spell was bargained, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 4 or less. Put the exiled card into your hand if it wasn't cast this way.
So that means that you can't cast the card if it costs 5 or more because it's more than you bargained for.
That's right.
It is the dumbest pun that they put on the card because it's more than the bargained for. It is such a stupidly layered pun, but I love that.
Yeah, no need for flavor text with this one. It's all there. Um, this is a good card. Tutors, generally speaking, are good cards. I think that Will and I definitely discussed this one quite a bit when the set came out. I even weighed the value of this over something like Demonic Tutor.
And this card, when brought up, nearly got you to leak another card, but we were able to kind of catch that before it happened.
Oh yeah, it's great with
Yeah,
Nanogen conversion. This is
yeah,
really good with
Nanogen
Nano.
conversion. So,
We can talk about
for
it
those
now.
who weren't paying attention, when we were talking about Patrick building Yuriko, the only reason why was Nanogen conversion because we knew about that card like 2 months before anybody else, and we were like, "Holy crap, this is just a one card win with Yuriko." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, Beseech the Mirror is really good with a specific card," and then Patrick is like, "Oh yeah, it's really good with a thing." And I was like, "I don't."
Yeah,
Patrick
yeah,
legitimately scared me on
yeah.
that one.
You wanna use it though. You wanna use it in your Yuriko deck. I think that we've built I don't know. I've been refraining from actually making the list, but I've been contemplating making Yuriko. I bought a copy of Yuriko. I've been thinking about making Yuriko. And I think at the end of this year I'll probably have Yuriko built out. It just seems really fun. Plus I like ninjas. Um I think my most fond memories with this game are probably with Kamigawa. So having someone from that plane probably just gonna be fun to command, if only for the simple fact that her strategy is so dope. But yeah, Beseech the Mirror and Nanogen conversion, or Beseech the Mirror for the One Ring, all good things to do. Pup Stump's absolutely right with that. And Agatha with Ob Nixilis, personally, yeah, Agatha's Soul Cauldron with Ob Nixilis is fantastic. Will, any other thoughts on Beseech the Mirror? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's also funny that it's kind of color fixing in some decks because if you want to find a three color spell, then you're only paying triple black and one, which is pretty easy with rituals. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good. I like it. Also, if you're finding necropotence, then this is basically a one generic mana tutor.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of it's grossly effective at what it does, and what Will said is so true about the card. It is basically a one generic tutor 2-field necropotence, and again, they don't get to know what it is. You could just put it face down. And the thing is, it's a May cast, so for any reason you just want to keep holding the necropotence, they'll never know.
And if you really want to be one of those cool psychos, you can cast Beseech the Mirror for the bargain cost and then put the spell in your hand anyways, just to give people a panic attack.
What was that? Wait, get it. Give him a panic attack for doing what?
Just by being like, oh, I'm gonna Beseech the
Oh,
Mirror with bargain, and I'm gonna put the card into my hand.
yeah. Really, really toy with them. You're like, I just had an extra token. That's the only reason why.
No, I'm just filling up my Dargo.
Right. So the next card I want to talk about is something that we got to play on live as part of a pre-con FNM, and I gotta say, I love the experience so much. I know people are doing things with this leader in the space. I think it's such a powerful legendary. So for 2 generic and Selesnya, legendary creature, human knight, Elevir of the Wild Court. 4/4 body. Whenever Elevir of the Wild Court enters the battlefield or attacks, create a virtuous roll token attached to another target creature you control. So ETB, you do a thing. That thing is giving a +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So clearly, this is steering in a very similar direction as Sithis is, right? Like you want to do that Enchantress thing. You want to stock this full of enchantments, like, but you're also creating enchantments with Elevir, which is relevant because whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, likely slapping this onto your Esper Sentinel for twofold reasons, right? It's increasing that thing's power. You're going to draw off that if they don't pay for the 2, and then also you're going to draw off the Esper Sentinel when it attacks. There are. There's no draw. Draw in games is good. There's no reason not to want to pilot this as your Selesnya commander. I've just not gone around to building a proper build for this, but I think Elevir is one of the better Selesnya commanders to date. Legitimately, I think the effect is so cool. I think it really favors those Enchantress builds, specifically aura-based ones. So you're getting a different flavor of Voltron. Normally, we tend to lean towards the artifact-based Voltron list, but there are plenty of, what am I trying to say? Umbral, the ones that if they would be put into the graveyard, would go back into your hand.
Armor.
Right, totem armor effects. Like, there's plenty of ways to ensure that you're always going to have an aura, even outside of Elevir, but Elevir is creating them herself. A lot of value here. It's really good, and it's generally, going to boil down to you just beating people to death, which is going to be very easy to do with those virtuous roll tokens.
Yeah. And just drawing a handful of extra cards every turn is really nice. I feel like Elevir plays very similar to my Brina deck. Uh, so I think it can work quite well. Trying to find the balance of enchantments and creatures is probably the hardest part of the deck, but shouldn't be too hard because you can use enchantment ramp and then all the good stacks creatures and you're cool. You're cool with life.
Yeah, no kidding. So Mateus is saying she's really powerful. It's the commander deck they pull out when they just want to not think too much. And I totally get that. It seems super chill. Like, I'm not really, there aren't any major interactions on the stack outside of potentially having to handle stacks pieces and like making, committing to choices during your turns, if anything, if you happen to go a stacks route. And PupSump says Elevir top 16 to recent CDH tourney. So clearly doing things within the space. Again, it's one of those leaders that I just have not gotten around to, but I have my copy still, and I've been thinking about it for a hot minute, dude. She looks really fun. She is really fun. From our pre-con battle, she was really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what are you swinging at people with like a 24/24 Yak Ox guy who was really fun?
Yeah, for me at least.
Yeah.
But Will, what are your favorite cards from Wilds of Eldraine?
Well, you started us off with Agatha's Vile Cauldron and finished us off with a legendary, so I'm going to do half and half with Agatha of the Vile Cauldron. So, Agatha of the Vile Cauldron is a Gruul commander that is also just really good in the 99 because she's a training ground. So she's 1 green, 1 red for a 1/1 that makes activated abilities of your creatures cost less equal to Agatha's power, and then also you can pay 4 red, green, give all your creatures +1/+1 trample and haste. So, as commander, Agatha reduces the cost of some things and also gives you an infinite mana outlet. As long as you
Mm-hmm.
have three creatures, you win the game because you have three infinities with haste and with trample. The combos that I've kind of come up with for I think the most efficient combo is a Miria Pilipala because you can untap Pilipala for one because of Agatha, and then tap it for a green so that you just make infinite of any color, and then you pay into Agatha and then make them infinities with haste and then swing out. Um, that's like the probably cleanest combo that you can do. But people have been really hyped on using Agatha in Thrasios Bruce value because she's just another training ground that can also
Yeah,
get really big to the point where she might make Thrasios only cost one to activate. So Agatha's fantastic, just as a generic value card and as a commander.
I agree with that. I like her. That's interesting to hear her being utilized in the body of some list. Obviously, Training Ground is this can it starts off lesser than Training Ground. Training Ground is like two less on activated abilities, I think. She'll only do the one initially, but obviously she has another thing that helps with that. So yeah, she's
Yeah,
good. Two for a
quite
reduction of
fun.
one with a virtual outlet online. Not bad at all.
Yep. Um, So then the next one, and this is one that we've mentioned before, but experimental confectioner. This is kind of straightforward because we already mentioned what it does, but I will quickly pull up the card so that we can get the detailed version.
Peregrine
So
took in this,
yeah,
obviously.
this is the Took and Cook combo, as people have dubbed it. So when confectioner enters the battlefield, you create a food. Whenever you sacrifice a food, you create a rat that can't block. So what you do is you play this with token play to get two food, and then you make any other token which will make a third food, and then you sacrifice the three food, getting three rats, getting three food, sacrificing the three food, getting three rats, getting three food, drawing your whole deck, making as many rats as you want, and then letting you win the game. Uh, this is just good. It's another Golgari combo that's reasonably playable, and it's not a horrible Hulk pile either.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. If you're in Gruul and you want to assemble a Hulk pile, it's not difficult to get to.
This is
Yeah.
also this card is surprisingly right now like $1.50. I thought it would have been a fairly inexpensive card, but considering that I
Uh,
don't think this is in the standard set, this is in the collector's packs. So weird
hmm.
card to be in the collector's packs, but it is a combo card, so picking it up might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, now I wonder what deck would be best for the Took combos. So far as who's at the helm of said Took combo deck? Well, right now,
Probably
Gruul.
Probably anything that makes a
So,
counter. Or not a counter, a
Golgari.
token.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Anything that would make a token to help expedite the process. And then obviously being in Golgari, if not more colors. You make tokens with that one girl who's in Gruul. Saprolings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that. Do that, Will.
No.
Go make get yourself a combo. I like Nithroy for these sacrifice combos. Oh yeah, I like Nithroy. I like a Nithroy. I like the art for Nithroy. I'll tell you that. All
Yeah.
the art for Nithroy. I didn't even notice
Nethroy
the
is indeed quite cool because he can pull out the thing that makes the token instead of him himself making the token.
mhm.
And then for my third and final card, it's very close between two cards, but I'm gonna go with my personal favorite, which is Werefox Bodyguard. So, Werefox Bodyguard is a card that I've not heard like anybody ever mention, and I've yet to draw my copy in the one deck that I played in. But I also really love this card, so of course I'm going to bring it up. Fox Bodyguard is 1 white for a 2/2 creature elf fox knight with flash. When it enters, exile up to one other target non-fox creature until Fox Bodyguard leaves the battlefield, and you can pay 1 and a white to sacrifice him to gain 2 life. Um, really nice because not only is it temporary removal, but it's temporary removal that you can get rid of at any point to return the thing, in addition to the fact that it's an instant. So it's just really good and functional as a card. If you want to do some stupid stuff, you can use this as a flicker by having an opponent attack you with Timna, then flashing this in, exiling one of your own things, and then blocking the Timna, returning your thing. So this can be a little bit of a flicker. This can be removal interaction, and this can let you return any stacks pieces that were in your way after doing what you want to do. Like you can get rid of a Draenith, play your commander, and then on like that turn potentially sacrifice Werefox Bodyguard to return Draenith. So like play it on your end step or on the end step before your turn, and then sacrifice it at the end of your turn.
I like it. How often do you go for gain 2 life, Will?
Not too frequently because it's probably just going to be removed eventually anyways. But the gain 2 life is more so there for the sacrifice more than anything else. If you want to temporarily get rid of something, then get rid of it, sack this, get the thing back.
That or
Uh,
in your Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher list.
yeah, you get that counter.
You get that
My
counter,
main,
and then
my,
I'm very serious. You can bring it back.
yeah,
You get
true.
the counter, you get the 3 power, and you can do it again. It's not bad.
Yeah. The one real utility and use of this is it's another Fiend Hunter for the Abdel loop. So
Yeah,
that's why I like it, and that's why I use it.
yeah. I okay. So if you didn't watch the stream yesterday, we made a Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher list, and I really feel like self-sacrificing utilities like this are brilliant. Obviously, would prefer to not have a cost beyond sacrificing the thing to be associated with it. So cards like Ranger Captain of Eos, silly good, silly good. But this is totally fine, especially if you need to reassign targets to a non-fox creature. But yeah, I like Werefox Bodyguard a lot. Guys, if there are any other cards from Wilds of Eldraine you wanted to discuss that we missed, I know that we missed out on a notable Rakdos legendary and a notable Dimir legendary, but you guys are out there playing those anyways. I wanted to promote Elevir because I think that it's just a dumb card, and I'm so happy to hear about its successes. It's a list I definitely want to make, especially after retiring Sithis. I enjoy playing Selesnya. It's an uphill battle, but I feel like with Elevir, not so much. I feel like you're going to be on a level playing field with people drawing and getting as much advantage and playing fun cards. Like it just seems like such a fun list. But beyond Wilds of Eldraine, now
And
that we're clear of the woods,
in
what's that, Will?
addition to Elevir, you can add the Tuca-Cola combo in the very near future, which is going to be really good for Selesnya.
What does it sacrifice a? Can we use the tokens, the aura tokens?
Yeah, the Aura tokens make the food for Took.
Uh,
So you have a
Will,
commander that makes tokens and draw to hit the combo.
did we find the perfect Peregrine Took Nuka Cola leader?
Well, I don't think there's a perfect one. I think it's going in a ton of decks. I think a
No,
lot of decks are just playing it.
there's a perfect one, Will. We'll find it.
Also,
No.
Mateus, the second we entered Wilds of Eldraine talks, he brought up two cards, which is the White Hoof and Talion. If we wanted to go over
Oh,
those,
oh, I'm sorry.
so
Where?
it's high up. It was before you mentioned the Nanogen conversion, Beseech the Mirror, like right before that.
So Talion?
Yeah, so Talion and Moonshaker Cavalry, I think that's the name of the card.
Get your moon shakers out. Talion the Kindly Lord for 2 generic and Dimir. This is the Dimir legend I was referring to. 3/4 body flying as Talion the Kindly Lord enters the battlefield. Choose a number between 1 and 10 and then slap your opponent in the face. Because whenever an opponent casts a spell with a mana value, power, or toughness equal to the number chosen, that player loses 2 life. If you got Werefox Bodyguard, don't worry. You'll gain it back. And you draw a card. I don't know, Will.
So yeah, I heard Rhystic
Seems
Study is a
okay.
good card. Paying a
Yeah,
black to put it in the command zone seems pretty good.
obviously, they can dance around this by not playing their spells. No, they're gonna play. They're gonna cast cards. It's gonna happen. You're gonna draw cards. It's
Yeah,
good. I think a lot of people
Italian
are
is
put off. They're like, I remember hearing comments like, "It's for CMC though," and I'm like, "Are you that guy also playing Atraxa Grand Unifier?" What are you talking about? This is not difficult. This is not difficult to do. One half of your color pie is all of the best control magic and interaction in the game. The other half is all the rituals. Don't worry, you'll get there. You'll
You get
definitely get there.
you get there with a dark ritual and an island.
Yeah, yeah. Or you'll get there with a jeweled lotus in an islands. Man, I don't know. Put it down early. Pick your favorite number. Make it 10.
Probably two.
Yeah,
Probably two.
probably make it 2 instead. I didn't watch the Command Zones video on what the perfect number is. I have to imagine though that the metrics are going to be varied depending on the kind of list you commonly see. But I would think 1 to 2 is probably the range, and likely 2, because again, it's more than just the mana value of the thing. And a lot of creatures have a power and toughness value of 2. That just is a commonality. So get it, boys. Get it. And what was the other one you said? It was a Moonshaker.
Moonshaker Cavalry.
The Moonshaker. Shaking the moon. High King Kenrith's armies followed him into the afterlife, ready to charge at his command, but not with haste. No, 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 no.
We're charging, but charging slowly.
Oh yeah, we'll need to prepare first before we charge. Please, don't rush us. You can't rush the dead. So for a lot of mana, 6/6 flying. When Moonshaker Cavalry enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain flying and +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. This is widely regarded as the white Craterhoof Behemoth. So it's good. It's good. If you can cheat it out, it's better. Obviously, you want to cheat this out. You know, you're not trying to you're not trying to hardcast the Moonshaker, or at least I'm not trying to hardcast the Moonshaker. I don't know about you, Will. You trying to hardcast the Moonshaker?
No, I'm not trying to hardcast a Moonshaker.
Yeah. This weekend I'm trying to hardcast the Moonshaker. Didn't work out so well. I'm gonna get it one day though. I'm gonna hardcast that Moonshake. Yeah, what does a Moonshake taste like? I wonder. And anyway,
Cheese. You know what? Cheesecake. Cheesecake, probably.
Apparently, Moon Rock smells like gunpowder.
Okay.
So cheesecake and gunpowder. That's my estimate.
But yeah, there's the Emrakul shaker. You got Emrakul trapped in the moon.
Is Emrakul trapped in the moon?
Yeah, not on this plane though, but she's
Okay,
trapped on the moon. Yeah.
Okay, I was looking for it, but okay. Yeah, Moonshaker Cavalry. It's really dope. I think it is a notable card from the set. Like, I don't know. You tell me, Mateus. Is it in Elevir? I'd be curious to know if that's something you rock as just a closer. I feel like you'd probably just want a natural order out, not Protean Hulk, a natural order out your Craterhoof Behemoth instead.
Yeah.
But a store championship version. Are you kidding me? $71 for this amazing piece of art? I had no idea, dude. Do you see this?
Waiting for the stream to catch up, but
Oh, it's alright.
like
When it catches up.
Second.
Best art from the set, by the way. Angela Wang, killing it. This is so freaking good. Wow, I didn't realize this version existed. Okay, I'm more
dang, that is pretty interesting looking. I don't like it too much, but I also don't hate it.
I like it too much, Will. Likeness Looter is the last card we'll be looking at from this set, and you know why?
Oh yeah,
because it's a good one.
Yeah.
Likeness Looter for Dimir, 1/1, flying. That's a fairy shapeshifter, relevant. Tap, draw a card, then discard a card. So it loots. Imagine if it was discard a card and draw a card instead on Likeness Looter. They should have. Just to piss the players off. For X, Likeness Looter becomes a copy of target creature card in your graveyard with a mana value of X, except it has flying and this ability. Activate only as a sorcery. All right, Will, tell me what you do with Likeness Looter that you can't do with Lazov.
Well, there's not really anything that you can't do with either or, but the idea is that with Likeness Looter, you can put cards in your graveyard much easier, because with Lazov, you just have a ETB Surveil. With Likeness Looter, you're looting every single turn until you find that blood wall and that flying lifelink creature, and then you're smacking your opponents in the face for 40 flying lifelink.
Why couldn't we get a legendary Likeness Looter? You know?
I know.
Because imagine this, if this was a legendary, if this wasn't just some nameless merfolk with a golden coin, if this was a proper legendary with a name, this would be so good.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
I'd like it more than Lazav as a legendary because
Likewise.
it's brutal. It is just so brutal if you can
Brutal.
have it as a commander.
Oh God. One day. We'll do a ooh. Ooh, wouldn't that be fun to do a commander night where we just had, if the character looks, we could just have any creature in the command zone? I don't know if this would be like the
My
go-to.
commander's gonna be Thorkel.
Exactly. Well, that's not as good, right? Because it's mono blue.
I'll find a way.
Okay. I'll win the game. Don't worry, I'll win the game. You just use a bunch of just frantic search style effects. You're just trying to dig, 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 dig. That's your whole game plan, is going through your deck to cast your Thoracle. I would play Likeness Looter though. That'd be so sick. At any rate, guys, if you're joining us now, thanks for swinging by for the stream. This has been a fun retrospective review. Air quotes asterisks. We're just covering our favorite cards from over the year 2023. Everything from, of course, Phyrexia All Will Be One, down to the most recent Lost Caverns of Ixalan. But before we get to Dinotopia, which is not the name of the plane, it's Ixalan. We're going to look at Doctor Who cards, and I have
The
a handful for you.
Yeah, and this is the other set that has dinosaurs in it. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, and some pretty cool dinos, as a matter of fact, although I won't be talking about any. However, we will
Nor
be
will
talking
I.
about one of our favorite cards and local game group's mascot, Fleshy, the Flesh Duplicate. For 2 teardrops, oh, Shapeshifter Rebel. You can tell. You can tell by those those bangs. That
That
little fringe
rebellious
apart.
neck.
I wasn't even gonna mention. I wasn't even gonna mention the neck. Well,
It's a
it's
sensitive
hardly.
topic. Don't talk about the neck.
It's hardly in the picture.
You see how
Please
she's screaming and mad? It's because someone mentioned the neck.
don't bring it. Don't bring up Fleshy's neck. She's really sensitive about her jarred neck. Um, what's really sad is that's really just her mascara rubbing off on her neck, because she gets really upset when you bring it up, and she wells up, tears spread, and when it stretches, the flesh stretches the mask. It's, anyways, you're a half flesh duplicate. Enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it has Vanishing 3. If that creature doesn't have Vanishing. If that creature does have Vanishing, I assume it would receive the same amount of Vanishing. At any rate, we like these effects. They're good. You copy things. We love seeing more of these. It's a Phyrexian metamorph, except much, much stretchier. I don't have too much to say. I like this card a lot. I think there are instances where this is technically better than Phyrexian metamorph. Yeah.
Uh, you mean Phantasmal Image
I'm sorry,
as well?
Fimage.
Yeah,
Phantasmal Image.
because this is flickerable, so you
It's
can
it's
use Displacer
flickerable.
Kitten in this and go like, I copy your dockside, I copy your dockside, I copy your dockside, I copy your Ewit, I copy your Ewit, I copy your Ewit.
Yeah, it's not a stretch to think about all those play lines. Well, Flesh Duplicate is really cool. There's a whole host of really interesting cards from Doctor Who, but I'd say that this was probably one of the more unsung ones. I feel like this won't get the kind of love it deserves until someone else cracks the code with a much larger, more famous channel and following. And then everyone's going to buy their Flesh Duplicates. So what I'm going to say to you now is buy it when it's sub $10. Okay. Well, clearly
Yeah.
someone finds the value in it. Thank God.
Well, the funny thing is, I have not seen a Phantasmal Image since we've mentioned this card, but I've seen several Flesh Duplicates.
Fleshy on the forefront.
Yeah,
All right.
people like Fleshy a bit more than Phantasmal Image.
I want this image on a shirt. I need to reach out to Wizards. I need to make that
What you know
happen.
what you need? You need like an edit of it on a shirt where it's wearing like a heavy metal shirt and it has like a concert in the background instead of like the normal one. So it's oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Just fleshing out. All right. The next card I want to talk about is a personal favorite of mine, and that's because it's amazing. In Oswald Fiddlebender, So it's 5 CMC. Hear me out. Enchantment. Affinity for historics. Ah, there's the rub. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact, legendary, and something else. When banished to another universe enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until banished to another universe leaves the battlefield. Talk about flexibility. I love a good enchantment-based temp exile card, and it doesn't get too much better than this one. Especially if you have a deck that cares about artifacts and or plays a legendary creature. Or even a legendary planeswalker in the command zone. It'll all do it. I think that even if you reduce this down to a generic and a white, totally worth it. Obviously, in a deck like Oswald Fiddlebender, it's usually 1 mana when I go to use it. Or if it's in my starting hand, it's the thing I Chrome Mox. It's fine. There's flexibility there. It's a great card. It's got goofy art. I've never watched Doctor Who, or at least I haven't watched up to this point in universe to see what the scene is of. But thank goodness it inspired this card design, because more affinity for cards, please.
I
Please.
think this is an old Cybermen getting banished. I could be wrong about that though, but
Hmm.
I know this from the older series.
Yeah, I'm trying to mimic it. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
you got
mimic
the
the.
yeah. Let's see. Left hand, pinky down, everything else like up like that.
Yeah, I wonder why the pinky's down like that. What
Well,
would
when you're
cause the
being banished
pinky?
to another universe, Patrick, the photons force you to bend your
Ah!
pinky.
Just the pinky.
Yeah, just the
Just
pinky,
the
specifically
pinky.
on the left hand.
Um, gosh, Doctor Who, so many good cards. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. I don't know if you're playing this in any decks, but
And not yet, but it is a card that I have a basic copy of, and I'm probably going to put it into something at some point.
here's another card that I'm going to be putting into something
At some
sometime
point.
soon. Oh no, not even some point. It's definitely this year. It's decided. We said this. I can't. I'm gonna build Yuriko. I'm gonna build Yuriko, and I'm gonna build Nanojin Yuriko, because I want to ask people if they're my mummy. For 3 generic and a blue, choose target creature you control. Each other creature becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn, except it isn't legendary. Breaking all the rules tonight, Will. Nanojin conversion. Is it hot or is it not?
For Yuriko, it is definitely hot, and also I want to pitch to you the joke of like, "Oh, you're my mummy? No, you're my ninja."
Yeah, there you go.
Turning everything into Yuriko.
Yeah, just preface before you even cast it. You gotta let it. I gotta ask. Are you my mummy? Eh,
Yeah,
Beseech the
like
mummy.
whenever you use Oswald and sacrifice something, and you go, "Oh, what is in my pocket?" The
Yeah,
hit
exactly.
sound. It's the Yuriko version of that.
Yeah. Is Nanojin conversion a good card? Yes.
Yeah,
Are enough people using
very
it?
much yeah.
Not yet. I cannot wait to just leverage the heck out of this card. It's so good. It's good in a lot of different strategies. We've made a whole video talking about Nanojin conversion and its utility, and it barely scratches the surface. There's a lot you can do with this card. You should really consider it for a list like Yuriko, or a list where it's relevant that you have several copies of a thing. And generally speaking, creating copies of that thing for your opponents can only be detrimental if you let it be detrimental. Like, don't play this into a board, or don't use this effect on a thing that would be bad for you. Clearly, someone could reroute this with a deflecting swat or something like that. There are ways that this could go awry, but it's good. It is
Yeah,
good largely and for the most part.
yeah, and there's so many different commanders that can utilize it that I'm surprised that people don't play this yet. My
Yeah.
personal favorite is Tulane Teller of Tales, because if you use this and target Tulane, you're shutting off all of your opponent's rule of law effects, all your opponent's opposition agents, everything like that, because everything becomes Tulane now. And then you
Hmm.
just cast an elf and draw 5 cards, play 5 lands, which will let you play another elf, which will draw 5 cards, play 5 lands, and you just play through your whole deck in one turn.
Not bad.
So good. Such a good card.
Not bad at all. So Will, what are your favorite cards from Doctor Who?
Well, one of them was Nanogen conversion, so I'll be able
Mm-hmm.
to choose one of my secondaries for that. But to start off, I'm going to go with one of my personal favorite commanders that has been doing better work than I thought it would, honestly, Sarah Jane Smith.
Sarah Jane
So,
Smith.
if you're playing a doctor and your doctor is not in white, Sarah Jane Smith is a pretty good companion because it allows you to play polymorph Tidespout Tyrant Loops as an actual win con. Because if you haven't seen the live streams, if you play, let's say, an artifact and you get your clue off Sarah Jane Smith, then you can return Sarah Jane Smith to your hand with your infinite mana off and doing Tidespout things, and replay Sarah Jane Smith, then replay the artifact, getting another clue, repeat, 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 making infinite clues, keep using Tidespout to reset Sarah Jane Smith, and you can draw your whole deck. So Sarah Jane Smith is a Tidespout outlet, on top of being a 2 mana commander that draws you like an extra card every turn as long as you're playing a historic spell, which you're probably going to do because you are drawing an extra card every turn. So Sarah Jane Smith is just kind of okay draw, but really good utility. And is also a companion of the Doctor, so you got pairings.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I like the TARDIS treatment art specifically. I agree
Yep,
with everything Will said. If you need to be in white or you want to be in white, this is a good way to go.
yep,
Um,
yep.
I don't know. The Doctor you pair it with is the 13th Doctor, correct?
10th Doctor for me, but you
10th
could
Doctor.
pair her with 13th Doctor as another option. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to though, because the 13th Doctor is kind of already a Tidespout outlet because you can make infinite +1/+1 counters.
I like it. Yeah, no thoughts on Sarah Jane. If you haven't watched her gameplay, I'll encourage you to watch some of the games where we manipulated Sarah Jane with the 10th Doctor. It's actually quite good.
Yep, yep. And I will move on to my next card, and this is one of my favorite cards that I have run in a ton of decks now, and it is Surge of Brilliance, and this card works really well in a lot of different decks. So Surge of Brilliance is one in a blue for a instant. I can't remember if it's instant or sorcery, but it says Paradox. Draw a card for every card that you cast from somewhere other than your hand this turn, and it has foretell for one in a blue. So Surge of Brilliance is just really good as a draw effect, but also really good as an outlet. It is an instant, nice. Um, and if you're doing Underworld Breach things, this is functionally another brain freeze for you to play with because it will draw you an extra card for every card you've breached out, and that will collectively start getting really big really quickly. It's really good with commanders like Dargo that weirdly keep recasting themselves from the command zone. This will let you draw your deck with like Food Chain or something like that as well because you're recasting from the command zone and exile over and over and over again. This is just an outlet and a lot of really good things. And if you're playing something like Gale that really cares about casting things from somewhere other than hand, then this is just a really good draw utility card because you're going to draw like 4 cards for 2 mana. And I heard that Ancestral Recall is a good magic card.
I like it. Do you foretell it often?
I foretold it that one game, but that was more so just out of sheer necessity because I had ritual mana up, so I figured why not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can foretell it and not feel too bad though, because it's still a 2 mana for an extra draw. It's like cracking a clue, but retroactively, or not
Yeah, I guess
retroactively, but like significantly ahead of time.
I my only qualm with Paradox in general is the fact that it only takes one spell to stop X amount of draw. You know what I mean? It's not like having a replicate or a storm effect where you're getting copies. But
Yeah,
then again, there are answers to that too, like mind break traps. So it's fine. It's good.
yeah.
I like Surge of Brilliance a lot. And
And
I like the
then
art a lot.
the last card that I wanted to add, and I have to quickly look through because there's a couple interesting ones that I could bring up because there's stuff like Psychic Papers, which is another thing that can make pirates for Malcolm. There's a Impending Flux, which is another Paradox outlet thing, but I'll go with my other lad, Adric, Mathematical Genius, for my third card because this card is grossly underrated in my opinion. I just realized all 3 of my cards were 2 drops from this, which is kind of funny. But
Yeah.
Patrick Mathematical Genius, he's 1 in a blue for 1/1 that says pay 2 a blue, tap him, copy target activated or triggered ability you control, pay 1 a blue and sacrifice him, stifle. So and Doctor's Companion, which isn't always relevant but can be relevant for two specific decks. Um, so Adric is just generally really good because copying activated and triggered abilities is really, really powerful. We have the 1 hourglass card that goes infinite with Adric, but that's not even too relevant. If you play Village Bellringer and have enough dorks, that's an infinite with Adric. If you play the 13th Doctor or the 5th Doctor and have enough dorks, that's an infinite with Adric. If you have any commander that says untap X things like Estrad the Masked with enough things that'll make mana, that's infinite. Adric just stumbles into a bunch of infinites on top of just grinding out a weird amount of value and stifling Thoracle. So Adric does kind of everything you want. The only reason that people don't really play him is that he's a Doctor Who card, so he feels kind of clunky-ish, but
Mm,
he's really not that clunky.
yeah. It's like 3 mana and tap to do the copy effect. It feels like a lot, but on the next turn you use, I feel like when you get to the end state of a game, you generally have the mana. I feel like games have gotten just longer, grindier these days, regardless of the list. So I feel like you're gonna get there with that top effect. Plus, it's summoning 6, so you're not forced to even consider it. But for less, you can counter activate and triggered abilities with him. So having Stifle on a stick is pretty good. I do think in the CZ it's kind of cool, like you were saying with the Village Bellringer loops. I like Adric a lot, man. I also think it has some of the best art from the set. It's like very photorealistic. I don't know anything about Adric in the show, but for a mathematical genius, there's a lot going wrong in this scene.
Yeah, it's well that scene because I watched Adric's death scene. Cybermen,
No!
yeah,
Spoiler! He said ultimate sacrifice. Ah, it makes
yeah,
sense now.
yeah.
Okay.
So, TLDR, Cybermen trying to destroy the universe by using this one specific cargo freighter that was at Earth at like the Jurassic period. Adric disables the device that's going to kill everything, and then the ship is still usable, so he proceeds to force it to crash into the Earth, which was the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs. And then he was supposed to get out of there before anything could go horribly wrong. Then the Cyberman shoots the controls, which forces him to stay on the ship to guide it down, and then yeah. So he calculated a whole bunch of crap to be able to save everybody and died.
Aw. I
It,
wish
the,
it I
the
wish it was called Big Bang instead.
I yeah, well well it wouldn't be Big Bang, but it would be like extinction event or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Which you
But
should call it.
so the thing is that yeah, he proceeds to math out how to prevent the destruction of the universe, and then he realizes that this is the event that wipes out the dinosaurs halfway through doing it, and he's just like, wait, is this actually this? And then the last words that we get from him are the console gets shot. He's standing there like, well, there's nothing I can do now, and then he just kind of like dishearteningly looks up and just goes, I guess I'll never know. And then zooms out from the ship. Ship explodes. And then the dinosaurs go extinct. But yeah, so that's Adric's story.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I do not even hate using Adric to just say I pay 3 to copy a dockside trigger or I pay 3 to
Yeah.
copy a ring activation.
Right. It won't be the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
Not for us at least. But guys, that's Doctor Who in a nutshell. I know there are some recent spoils for Doctor Who. If you guys want to talk about the 15th Doctor, I believe.
14th
Is it
Doctor.
14th Doctor?
So we got a 14th Doctor, Rose, what is her name? So we got 15th Doctor, we have no, wrong thing. We'll go to the secret lair. There we go.
Is it coming out this year? Or is it coming out next year?
It's coming out this year. I think it's part of the holiday stuff. But we have Rose Noble, the 14th Doctor, and the Celestial Toymaker. And to give like the brief summary of all three of those, the 14th Doctor is every color but black. He enters, looks at the top 14, and lets you put any doctors into the graveyard, and he enters as a copy of a doctor you've milled this turn with haste. So he's like any doctor. Um, Rose Noble is whenever you cast a Doctor or Doctor's Companion, you draw a card. So she's a Tidespout outlet because you can just keep recasting the Doctor to draw infinite cards. And
Okay.
the Celestial Toymaker is an Esper Timna that's 2/4, and whenever he attacks, you look at the top three, separate them into one face up and one face down pile, and your opponent puts one of them to your hand and the other into exile. And then finally, on each end step, each time that your opponent for spell or ability chooses one or more players to guess, group up cards or permanents into piles, then each opponent loses 2 life. So pretty much, is it? Let's see. On each end step, each opponent loses two. Yeah, for each spell or ability that causes people to guess or group things up. So he just burns people on top of just being a draw two every single turn. He's cool Thimna, and he gets around Orcish Bowmaster because he doesn't actually draw.
Hmm. You think it'd be fun to play Celestial Toymaker?
He's a Tymna. There's not a lot to say about him.
Yeah, 14th Doctor is cool because you can go 5 color. Should you like? You
Yeah,
probably like.
it's
And then
you
Rose
go
Noble.
5 color unless you're playing Adric as the Doctor's companion, so that you can do fifth or 13th Doctor in 4 color. Those are the only distinct mentions.
Yeah, a lot of Secret Lair stuff coming out. But yeah, those are the newies. Those are the newies. There's one more that's on here, but I can't seem to find it. But that's okay. So guys, there is one more set to discuss this. Loop deck. Loop deck died, of course. There's one more set to discuss this year. To top off 2023. It brought us a lot of cool stuff, coupled with Universal's Jurassic World, as well as some Jurassic Park characters featured in it. And that's the Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
As well as
We
some sexy Ian art.
oh, the sexiest Ian Malcolm art, which
Yeah,
I think I can actually bring up for us. I
I
can.
love it. I
All
love
right.
that we have 3 Malcolms now, and one of them is just
Well,
a dude. We've got
and
like Siren Malcolm, other Siren Malcolm. Sorry, we have Pirate
Tasker.
Malcolm, Furry Malcolm, and then Human Malcolm, as I like to call them.
Oh. Yeah, from the same set. And I'm thinking like we have 3 arts as well now. So we have
Yeah, is it
Banana
3? I
Boy.
think we have a good deal more than 3 for Tassiger.
Well, there's different border treatments, but there's like the original art and then the one we got from Double Masters, and then we
Yeah,
have the new Tassiger Golden
you are
Fang,
correct. Yeah.
which was really the best choice. For a card to make a copy of. This card is so good. For Ixalan, I have a question. Permission denied, underutilized.
Permission Denied is a good card, but I wouldn't say it's underutilized. It's just, it can be good, but for 2 mana counter spells, you either want it to hit as many different options as possible or do more than just counter. Like Drown in the Lock is one of the few 2 mana counter spells that people play, or Dovin's Veto, which is uncounterable. Permission Denied is really good when it works, but the issue is it's a silence effect that requires somebody to play a card first that it can counter. I think it's good. It's
I'd
just
counter
not
my
that
I'd
good.
counter my own thing, Will. I'll counter my own thing.
Yeah, but then people are just gonna play on top of it anyways. So you're paying like 3 mana for silence. That's
Potentially,
at best.
unless you cast a Mox Amber.
Yeah, but still, you're paying so much to just have a silence on the stack that your opponents are going to play
Gotta
through.
gotta do what you gotta do, Will. um, I have not added this into Shorikai, though I've wanted to. I don't know if it's underutilized either. I do think that the effect is quite good, though. I think it's probably going to be better. It's probably going to be better not on your turn, but off turn. And it's going to be an interesting way to shut down your opponents as they're trying to win the game. Because it's a double threat. But clearly, it is a card that wants to be answered, and you're committing to a lot of pips. I would say any spell that's beyond 1 pip in its cost feels like a lot of commitment. So, the $160 one, oh, it has a Dino logo on it. That's sick. Yeah. Don't buy that one if you're just trying to play. Buy the one that's $7. Wow, it's clearly enjoyed by someone in the community. But so far as the Lost Caverns of Ixalan is concerned, from my perspective, just gonna start with the best one first, baby. Okay, so Dust Rose Reliquary, Oswald Fiddlebender. It's a deck I play. This is a really good card for that deck. It's the only reason I'm bringing it up. If you care about artifacts like I care about artifacts, maybe this is relevant to you. It's also just good outside of Oswald, legitimately. For a white artifact, as additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Well, maybe you want to sacrifice that thing anyways, right? Maybe. Ward 2. When Duskrose Reliquary enters the battlefield, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. It just punches so high above its own weight. And it's a temporary, like Banished to Another Universe, but it has Ward 2.
Which means it's really not temporary, because that thing is not dying unless there's a board wipe.
No. No, it's so good. It's like it's going to be collateral in the Cyclonic Rift turn, and then whomever is going to get whatever back, but it's so good. It's really fantastic in Oswald because you bring it out without having to worry about the casting cost, the additional casting cost. It's fantastic. I like it a lot. Probably one of my favorite arts from that set as well. I just need to know who has this heart display in their house. Good on them. It's a choice.
Probably somebody who has like Edgar Allan Poe quotes like written on the wall or
Also,
something.
yeah. Instead of live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, die. Well, I
Live,
don't know if
laugh,
you have any.
live, laugh, one dark night on a midnight dreary.
Yes. Then the whole wall is just the rest of it. Um, it's good. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one though. It's a nice spell. How many other decks do you think would want to consider this outside of say a Fiddlebender?
Not a ton, but it's also not even that horrible because it's a functional one mana piece of removal at the cost of sacrificing something that you may be totally fine with sacrificing. Because if you're playing tokens, cool, you sacrifice a token. If you're not playing tokens, cool, you probably sacrifice like a treasure or like a
Mm-hmm.
dork or something that you don't care about anymore.
Facts. All facts. The
Shadow
next one
fact.
we Shadow facts. Show us the meaning of haste. Or Kitesail Arsonist. Show us the meaning of flying Ward 1. 2 generic and blue for a 2/3 body human pirate. This one's an oddity, and it's a utility that, LCI is still relatively new, so we're only getting to see some of these cards splash in the list right now. But I think Kitesail Arsonist is one that it just does a lot for what it
It's
is.
Grasp of Fate, but in blue, and it protects
Grasp of Fate
itself.
button blue. It's also a pirate, so this is also very relevant for decks like Malcolm Kedis. But I mean, only so relevant. But it is a pirate, so duly
It
noted.
it's
Oh,
very funny because one thing that somebody pointed out to me that I didn't even really think about, but I do really like, is that you can get a good ETB off a creature like Spellseeker or something like that, and then you can turn Spellseeker into a treasure, sack Spellseeker, and then reanimate Spellseeker.
yeah.
So it just
Uh,
has a bunch of weird little utilities on top of being removal.
right. Or I mean, use the treasure from the spell seeker to cast the thing you even thought. Right. So there's a lot of value there. But when Kitesail Larcenist enters for each player, so this includes you, choose up to one other target artifact or creature that player controls. For as long as Kitesail Larcenist remains on the battlefield, the chosen permanent becomes treasure. And we all know how treasures work. I have to assume, what with the prevalence of dockside extortionists, we all know what treasures do. It's just saying that I'm going to remove your best thing. In a lot of instances, you're gonna have to use the treasure eventually, probably, likely, and you'll suffer that loss. So afterwards, you're kind of just chilling with a 2/3 flyer with Ward 1. It'll ping people. It's
Yeah,
good. It's a really good utility.
it is a good
I
card. It is a good card.
Could it have had Flash, Will?
No, that would have been way too good. Grasp of Fate with Flash? Are you kidding me?
What if it was a generic and double blue?
That would still be too good.
What if it had no ward? You wouldn't even care.
I think that would still be too good.
Yeah, you wouldn't care. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a
Flash,
good card.
Flash on a grass buffet, Lord.
I like Cartel Arsonist a lot. I think that I will definitely want to incorporate it in a future list, especially when you can throw this guy upon a wind. But
Indeed.
my last card is one that makes me really want to play Savala again, and that's the Skullspore Nexus. So, Skullspore Nexus is this ridiculously costed 8 CMC legendary artifact. I know you're going to check out. You don't want to hear about 8 CMC cards, but hold up. This spell costs less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Okay, well, I play Dargo. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dino creature token with base power and toughness, each equal to the total power of those creatures. So this is multiple creatures dying, creating a larger creature, like some weird monstrosity, or this is a berserked creature dying and coming back with a base power and toughness equal to that creature's power. Then, on the back end of this, you can pay 2 and tap it to double target creature's power until end of turn. If the thing wasn't big enough, it will become even bigger. For the most part, this is going to be 2 green in something like Savala, Heart of the Wilds. And when you go to cast your Life's Legacy, or whatever you're doing, you're getting so much draw out of the equation. This is essential for that deck. And I would say also equally viable in Marwyn the Nurturer. I like this card a lot.
Yeah.
At face value, it's just a way to make sure you retain your things. The creature token you get, the fungal dinosaur monstrosity, whether it's 2 creatures or just 1 creature that died, it doesn't go away at the end of turn. So this is just a good way to double down on your things. Also, if that thing had an ETB, there's an ETB. In Savala, there's an ETB.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
I I'm gonna play Phyrexian Dreadnought to get a straight up 12/12 without trample. So dang, I lost trample. So I guess I'm just getting a 1 mana 12/12 spore token or fungus token.
yeah, there's a
It's
lot of utility here.
yeah, and the dumb thing is that the double power will work to amplify the token, which on the next turn you can double the power of. So let's say Phyrexian Dreadnought. Phyrexian Dreadnought double its power, you get a 24/24 token. Then on the next turn you make it a 48/24 token. And you just combo off with Selvala with 48 mana off of Selvala taps. This is also really good with stuff like Yargle Multani, because you play Yargle Multani, make it a 36/5. What was it? 36 power. And then you get the token, which is going to be a 36/36, which you're going to then double on the next turn and just win the game. So, Skullspore is so good. It makes so many decks so good. I love it.
I think it's something that you should have in your arsenal for sure. I like
Yeah.
it quite a bit, and it again really makes me want to brew Savala Heart of the Wilds, like re-brew her. There's been so many new utilities that just work so well within that list, and this one is sort of the icing on the cake. But for Ixalan, I have a question. Oh no, seen this one. Sorry, thought this was a new one. Not underutilized. But Will, what are your favorite cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan?
So I'm going to start off with one that we talked about yesterday. Zoyoa's Justice. So this card
Yeah.
is the new Abrade, and it's so fun. So Zoyoa's Justice is 1 and a red for an instant that has uh target or target artifact or creature's controller puts that card into the owner's library, and then they discover X, where X is that card's CMC. So it has to be a card that costs 1 or more though. So it's
Mhm.
you can't hit the Mana Crypt, you can't hit the Mox Diamond, none of that. But you can hit everything else. Um, this card is really good and really funny because, as I talked with Patrick yesterday, you can Zioa's Justice your own Dargo, and you can discover 7. I'm running this in my Zada
So
deck
good.
because you can
Mm.
target your Zada, which splashes to everything else, so that you're going to have a bunch of Zioa's Justices, which are going to let you cascade into either mana or Zada effects, which are going to let you win the game. I love this card.
Yeah, Zoyoa's Justice is just like such a cool utility in Dargo list, and it's in colors. So whatever you want to put Dargo in or partner with him, I think Zoyoa's Justice is probably something you should just consider for that alone. Let alone the fact that you are also able to use this to hamper someone else's game plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dope. It's so dope. I feel like people will still, because there is a random aspect to this that can be painful. But you know, we're talking about digging 7 with Dargo. That's not going to be the case for every single target of this card, and they might not
Well,
discover anything of value, right? So I
here
feel like
here's
this
one of
is
the
just.
reasons. Here's one of the
Hmm,
reasons why this is better than a braid, Patrick. This hits the One Ring.
mm. All right, see ya, Brade.
Yeah.
It's been swell. Yeah, no, you know, Abrade has been a staple in the CDH scene for so long. We even just got a new one from the same set at common. Well, they're just letting you know that it's common value considered to Zoyoa's Justice. Let's see
Indeed,
here.
indeed.
Zoyoa's Justice is good in Yidris. You can get a 0-drop tutor like Inevitable Betrayal or the Black Tutor. Profane Tutor? Or is it a. Right?
So with Zoyo's Justice, it has to hit something that costs at minimum 1, so you will never be able to consistently hit 0 for the Discover.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't do crazy things like Idris does, but you can still hit good stuff out of Idris.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
card. I
man.
like it.
They cast it without paying its mana cost. Well, I mean, you can also do stuff about that. But at any rate, Will,
Yeah.
what is your next? What is your next card from
So
LCI?
speaking of disruption, my next one is Dauntless Dismantler, and this is the new Manglehorn, as people call it. And Dauntless Dismantler is 1 in a white for a 1/4. That is a crazy stat line. But
Yeah,
what else does it do? Artifacts your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped, which is really good as well, because that's basically just a blind obedience.
right.
In
Why
addition
it's
to the fact that you can pay 2x in white to sacrifice this and destroy all artifacts that cost X. Holy crap.
I'm not sure why that top effect is even asymmetrical.
I know. So, not only is this a ridiculous stat line on a creature, so this can easily block a Tymna, but it's a blind obedience style effect. In addition to the fact that you can pay 1 white to nuke all 0 mana artifacts. And if you're feeling
Even
really, really spiteful, you can use Lurrus to recur this over and over and over again to nuke every single CMC under the sun.
or Carmen.
Or Carmen. Card's gross. Only reason why it's not my Brina deck is this card was not printed when Brina was around. Only reason why it's not the Carmen deck is because we used my Brina deck as reference and skimmed over this.
100% include though.
Yeah, 100%
It's good.
include. Like,
It's very
when
good.
if Patrick does make the Carmen deck, this is probably going in that deck.
I'm gonna probably start from scratch and do that again and make like
Yeah.
a fast Carmen. But
Yeah,
I think that this
speedy.
speedy Carmen, I feel like this deserves to be in there still though. That's pretty good value. I just want to look at any self-sacrificing thing. But at any rate, yeah, Dauntless Dismantler, really good. Amazing stat line for 2 CMC card. Very splashable with 1 white in its pip, in its cost so far as pips are concerned. And artifacts at your opponent's control. Again, there was no need for this to be asymmetrical, but it is.
It's
But it
asymmetrical
is.
and a board wipe. Holy crap.
Yeah,
It's
just hold
also
on. Yeah.
it's also funny because you can force your opponents to pop all their treasures from that one dockside in one turn just by paying white.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
worst part is all those treasures entered the battlefield tapped, so they are not comboing.
Yeah, it's true. You could just wait. You just wait on it. You're like, I'll pop it later. And
It is
also,
brutal.
if you want to get really crazy, you can slap someone with the Dauntless Dismantler and still sacrifice it.
Yeah,
If you knew it was gonna die, you might as well swing and ping. Am I right? Um,
might as well, yeah.
swing and ping, baby. Just push that shield out of the way first. We don't need that anymore. But yeah, Dauntless Dismantler, amazing. I think it's definitely one of the better cards from LCI. I totally agree with you there. This card's absurd.
Yeah. And then finally, my last card, the Roaming Throne, because this card is splashable in pretty much every single deck under the sun. So the Roaming Throne is
Yeah.
4 for a 4/4 that has Ward 2, because why the crap wouldn't it have Ward 2? As it enters, you choose creature type. It is that creature type in addition to its other types, and all other creatures of those types have double triggers. Um, yeah, why?
Eureka?
Um,
Beseech the throne?
Yeah, Beseech the Throne. It's a four seam seed it is tutorable.
Would you rather
Um
beseech the throne or beseech the conversion?
or Beseech the Ring.
Or
We got
beseech
the
the
three
ring?
options. I it depends on the deck because if you don't want to immediately win in one turn or do like insane value, like if your deck is a little bit slower, you Beseech the Throne.
Okay.
If you have like Chulane or Eureka, you probably beseech the conversion. But yeah, Roaming Throne is it's just kind of gross because it does what Nanogen does, but consistently over multiple turns. It's also a combo card in Magda. It's also just a kind of splash splash benefit because, for instance, I'm playing the Roaming Throne in Zada because it will double Zada's effect and cast two copies of every spell on each of my creatures. So I'm 100% naming Goblin.
Mm. Dockside extortionist. Ugh, you don't want that, Will.
It exists. That line is just a dumb thing that exists in the deck. I'm not even trying to do it, but I will have double dockside triggers. If you're playing like a very common creature type as your commander, it hits multiple things. One other funny thing, which will never really be relevant, but is kind of funny, backgrounds. So backgrounds give the ability to your commanders. So funnily enough, if I name human, I will get four treasures out of Gale instead of two.
Huh.
I'm not running Roaming Throne and Gale, but yeah, that does work.
Throne is good.
Yeah,
Throne is really good for all the reasons Will mentioned. I don't know if I have a list that I want to slot it in quite yet. I think if
Eureka.
anything, I was gonna say, I think if anything, it would be Eureka though. So we'll have to sit down and do that, I guess. But yeah, Roaming Turn's fantastic. There's also really good art for it too. So
Yeah, there's two different arts, and I have the other art because it is the cheaper one right now. But it's the candle guy, as I like to call him.
oh
But
yeah,
really
that's
quick,
what those are.
just I do want to emphasize this. Why does it have Ward 2? Why does it need Ward 2? This is a Panharmonicon. You can just throw it and go to name human and have a delightful time. This is such a dumb card.
Yeah, Panharmonicon's also for CMC, right?
Yeah, this is just better Panharmonicon.
I don't know what design decisions they labored over when it came to determining which cards deserve any form of ward value. I'd be curious to know what that process looked like. It is interesting to see that this has ward though, because there are cards that I think would have benefited from ward, like a potentially overcosted legendary in Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher. Like she would be great if she had ward. Clearly. For some reason, they just wanted to avoid that. I don't know if any vampires from the set have ward. Did we cover any that have ward?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, pirates have ward, and I don't know why some random pirate who's flying through the sky has ward, but
No, neither do I.
maybe it's harder to hit somebody from range,
Slippery.
so ward one.
Yeah, that or you need to concentrate one mana to to hit it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
roaming
yeah, the
throne is
Roman
really good.
throne being a large statue in the middle of a field, yeah, it makes sense. Ward two, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
it's a
go.
big body. Well, it's a big body. It's whatever creature type you want, and it's a panharmonicon in a lot of instances, and then just double triggers for commanders with weird triggers. Because once again, Chulane is my favorite example. You double draw and double land play with Chulane. You can not really like hard storm off, but you can get through your deck pretty hard with Roaming Throne. But
Hmm.
then you also just have commanders like Bergi. If you play Bergi, you name God and you get two mana instead of one.
I mean, that with that kind of ramp, how do you lose? Mateus wants to bring up Sunshot Militia. from the
That's
set.
one that was on my maybe list. And I can describe this one because this one is really freaking good. So
Hmm.
1 in a red for a human soldier, because if it was a human pirate, this card would actually be like a tier 0 broken card. Uh, Tap 2 creature and or artifact cards, and then deal 1 damage to each opponent. This card is broken because if you make it a pirate with any of the equipments or anything like that, it is an infinite with Malcolm, OG Malcolm, because you deal 3 damage to each opponent. You get 3 treasures. Tap 2 of those treasures. Deal 3 damage to each, or 1 damage to each opponent, making 3 treasures. Repeat, 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 repeat. Kill everybody. If for some reason you had like 2 guys at 10 life and 1 guy at 40 life, you can still tap some more treasures, and then you'll have a bunch of treasures for mana to try to close out the game anyways. So yeah, it's good.
Does that deck run Masswood Nexus?
I don't know. They might run Maskwood Nexus.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Sunshot Militia is just a good. It's a good card. And I totally agree. Yeah, it's also very good in Magda.
And Psychic Paper is a Doctor Who card that's pretty good as another Make Things Pirates card, but
Or
it's very, very weird.
Captain's Hook.
Yeah, Captain's Hook is another one.
Make me a pirate.
So
Yeah.
people,
Mm.
I think they didn't run Maskwood Nexus because they only had Reckless Fireweaver before. But with Sunshot Militia, I think you run all the things.
Yeah, I mean, you want to hit a consistent number of cards, right? Enough redundancy to say that it's valued in the deck, especially when it's something like Is It, where it's lacking the more
Yeah.
direct tutors. But you've got things for artifacts in red, and you can hopefully pull into either Sunshot or Reckless Fireweaver now. So I think that's more than viable for the list. But yeah, guys, if there's anything else from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan you'd like to look at, let either myself or Will know in the chat, and we'd be happy to talk about it. But, whew, did we cover a year in Magic?
Yeah, yeah, this is the year of Magic.
Well, it's a year in Magic. I don't know if it was the year.
Well,
Will
so well,
actually, honestly, for a
the
lot of
the year
people,
isn't this year, but
right, right, right. I think for a lot of people, though, being introduced to Lord of the Rings in their favorite card game was probably a huge deal. From what I gathered earlier on our poll, it seemed like most people enjoyed Lord of the Rings set the most. And I can imagine it's from one, the standpoint that the cards were very, very, I'm going to say busted, but there are a lot of really great cards in that set, and a ton more we didn't even mention. But also, it's a fantasy world that we all just want to take part in. And it gets me really excited when I play Oswald to play the One Ring. But every single one of these sets has something of value for the commander player. So I highly encourage you, if you're tuning in late, to check out the rest of the video. I will leave timestamps to every single set that released this year, from Phyrexia to Dungeons and Dragons to March of the Machines, to include the Aftermath to LOTR, Commander Masters, Woe, Doctor Who, and LCI. But guys, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I had a ton of fun going over these sets with you guys. If you do enjoy the content here, I'll encourage you to leave it with a like. It goes a long way into helping this channel's discoverability with our live streams. Do expect more short form content here on the channel, and of course some pre-recorded content going into the tail end of the year. You can expect Will and myself to do a lot more live streams as well. So if you like the conversations here, I do want to fire up the podcast again and get to talking on our favorite games. But right now we're doing a lot of sorcery content, Sorcery Saturdays, Magic on Fridays, and of course, One Piece on Wednesdays. So if any of those TCGs tickle your fancy, we're discussing them. So if you want to stay up to date on the latest sets from any of those games, and obviously deck text, deck profiles, we're here for that. But Will, any thoughts before we close this year in review out?
if you want to be more involved with any of those games, any of the things on the channel, hop over to our Discord where we talk about all these things in depth and you can talk to other people on the topic. We also have a role set up so that you can get pinged whenever we do something new for One Piece or Sorcery or Magic. You can ignore what you want to ignore and be notified on what you want to be notified of.
Right. If you weren't here at the beginning, I do want to state that this was a brand ambassador live stream. So I'll encourage you to check out our link in the description as well to view Ravnica Remastered and everything else on Wizards of the Coast website. Thanks once again to Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this video and providing Will and myself with all the singles, most of all the singles we needed from these sets this year. We've had a lot of luck pulling a majority of what we needed. Shame none of us pulled the One Ring, but I was able to have get my hands on two of them, so not
I got
problematic.
my one. I got the only one that I need.
Yeah, I have two now. I'm beside myself. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with both of them. But guys, the link to the Discord is in the description, though. You will need to click on the description to find it. But yeah, I highly encourage you join us there. We did revamp the whole thing, so some of the channels look empty. It's because we completely clean slated the Discord. But feel free to start populating it with conversation, and we'll see you over there. But for now, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, man. I love these earbuds I just bought. Custom earbuds with FLCL theme. But they can get a little painful after 3 hours, I gotta say.
You can